If you score, in all likelihood, and perhaps the CFP. Jackson trying to turn the corner, and he did not get there. Darren McFay raced him to the pylon and made sure he came up inches short.
Live from the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans, this is Sikkim 365 Radio.
A lot of window dressing here on 2nd and goal. Smith comes back into the backfield. They run Bohannon with blockers in front and into the end zone. Gary Bohannon.
Our Sugar Bowl coverage is brought to you by Ideal MRI, Edward Jones Investments agents Ben Erlinson, Tom Albers, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott. Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. The Willis Law Firm. American Bank, Pioneer Steel and Pipe, Genco Federal Credit Union, Camille Johnson Realtors, Automatic Chef Canteen, BetUS.com, Coach's XXX Smoke Barbecue, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat.
First down, Smith with running room. Abram Smith picking him up, puts him down. Abram Smith down inside the 10.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Well, we're all back together again, and yet in a different location. We are inside the Marriott Hotel in the Arts District, just around the corner, right across the street from the Convention Center, just down the street from the Hilton Hotel where Ole Miss is staying. And Armstrong Sims and Jack McKenzie drove in earlier this morning, got here in the early part of the afternoon to set us up here live inside the Marriott, right outside media headquarters. Craig Smoak to my right, Paul Catalina is to my left. I'm David Smoak, and we have missed you on and off. We've all been traveling in different directions, taking a little bit of time off, decompressing, but we are here, and we are here until 6 o'clock, and we're going to be here at this location on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of this week, and also we will also have our pregame coverage on Saturday leading up to Baylor and Ole Miss. The Baylor Bears, of course, arriving here this afternoon in New Orleans, and a little bit later on around 5 o'clock today, it is Ole Miss who will arrive here in New Orleans. There's bowl games going on right now. Maryland at halftime, 24-10. They lead Virginia Tech. That game's at halftime. How about last night, Texas Tech hammered? They mauled Mississippi State. There's a lot more to get to, including women's basketball tonight against North Texas. Baylor winning big last night. Men's basketball, number one in the country, tuning up for the game with Iowa State Saturday. And then there's the story about John Madden, the great John Madden. John Madden passed away at the age of 85. They just had that huge documentary on him yesterday. and he's gone. And we're going to hear from former Raiders Hall of Fame coach Tom Flores at 3:30 today.
Yeah, he was a giant in the game and someone who will never be replaced. I can't even imagine somebody else having the impact on the NFL, and it is in every walk of the NFL life. My top 5 today is about John Madden, but I'll say this, no one, if you look back at how color commentary pre-John Madden used to be, it was very different. It was very kind of vanilla, and there were 2 guys who probably changed that in the NFL the most, and one of those was Don Meredith. The other was, in a much bigger way, John Madden. The 2 guys I think that were the biggest influences on broadcasting and the way that the NFL and the way that we consume it now are Howard Cosell and John Madden, and the way that they changed things was really unbelievable.
Well, I know him because I remember I was at that age in the prime of my youth when he was the head coach of the Raiders, but most people know him because of Craig the Game, Madden, the football game, the video game in which he put his name on it, and he could never have imagined how much that blossomed. And he was a character. He was a personality. He worked at all 4 networks covering the NFL, and he was, when I think of the NFL, he's among the top 5 names I always think of. John Facenda, the voice of the NFL, is one of them that would be outside of actually who's someone who played the game. But as a young kid, you're growing up, the Madden, the video game, it exploded, took football to a different level.
Yeah, I didn't know him as a coach. I learned that kind of after the fact or during the fact, but I basically knew him because of announcing in the video game. The video game played obviously a large role in a lot of people my age's lives and younger as well. It's been around a long time, and it's an institution, and so was John Madden. When it comes to the NFL and the game of football, he was a living legend who's no longer living, unfortunately, and very sudden his passing. Still, obviously they were very, hush-hush on what happened, and it's really none of our business, but I'm sure we'll learn that in time. But, just very sudden, very shocking that it happened so quickly, and especially given the timing of it, just a couple days before the big special on him. So that was just kind of strange how that happens. It reminds me of like a wrestling story, really, and I don't want to compare everything to this, but the Ultimate Warrior for the longest time was on the outs with Vince McMahon in WWE, and because of that, they wouldn't honor him at all. And eventually, years and years and years would pass, and finally they made amends. And this isn't exactly like Madden, obviously, because he and the NFL were thick as thieves. But after Warrior made these amends, he got inducted to the Hall of Fame. The very next day, 2 days after he was inducted to the Hall of Fame, he passed away. It was almost like that was like his big, hurrah, his send-off, and that made him complete. And I'm not saying it's the exact same thing with John Madden, but the timing of it's just awfully strange, because of the attention that was on him, and then right afterwards, like, here he is and he's gone. And it kind of reminded me of that in a way. Just a tough loss for the football world. I'm sure the Madden game will keep rolling along, but it won't be the same, knowing that he's not really a part of it in any way, shape, or form. But, him and Summerall, that was the soundtrack of my growing up. I didn't know the eras before that. I kind of started with Summerall and Madden, and that was who it was for most of my childhood. And, just a tough thing for the football world.
Paul brought this up earlier, and again, we're so glad to be back all together again. We've had bits and pieces of us along the way, and some of you have been very patient. The chat room is launched again. The text line, 254-339-1122. We'll have Tom Flores at 3:30, J.J. Joe at 4. Carlos Silva covers Texas Tech. They just beat the hell out of Mississippi State at 4:30. And also today, George Teague, former Alabama star, who made one of the more remarkable game plays ever in Sugar Bowl history at Alabama against Miami in 1993, will join us today at 5 o'clock as well. But, you brought this up, and he was a bigger than anyone you could ever imagine. Our great friend Eric Horton. Eric Horton, back when the Hall of Fame used to be, basically it was not a big TV show. It didn't mean it wasn't on television, but you used to be able to walk into this area, and they were going to announce the class of whatever year. And one year when Madden got in, I'll never forget, Eric was able to walk up to him with his father-in-law, his late father-in-law, Burley Lamb, and just talk to him. Things have become so Hollywood now, these shows or productions or whatever, and it was a huge day for him to be able to meet some of the great names. But John Madden, I'll never forget that story as well.
I think about this when I think about John Madden. I think about how, and this is not an apples to apples comparison, but I told you this one time when I was trying to find a highlight for Gary Player when we had him on the show, and when Gary Player, I don't know if it was the U.S. Open, one of the majors that he won, I was trying to find the 18th putt, and so my whole life, I've been listening to Jim Nantz call those kind of things, and so when Jim Nantz calls the 18th putt at the Masters or the U.S. Open or whatever tournament, there's a lot of flair to it and all this. And whoever Johnny Miller, who's ever on with him, shares in that excitement, and it's fired up. There's David Faraday's of the world.
Right.
I think that is because John Madden in football made everything so big and boisterous and okay to have fun while you're watching sports on television. And you used to listen to guys, and this was football, baseball, and whatever. Unless it was it Dizzy Dean that used to do those games on Saturday that was kind of nuts, but and fun. But the putt I remember for Gary Player was like, Player at the 18th hole, a 19-foot putt.
Yeah.
Wins the U.S. Open. You're like, this guy just like a 19-foot putt to win the U.S. Open, and the most you can muster is good job.
Yeah. It was more, and it was more golf at the time. Of course, it's grown up now. The Ryder Cup has made it just get so boisterous. Yeah. No, yeah, even the great announcers, but then Keith Jackson comes around. And John Madden, what he did, he became more popular than what he was really more popular, if that makes sense. He was incredible. He was a Hall of Fame football coach, and it took a while for him to be inducted. He didn't coach but more like 10 years with the Raiders. And he was in the decade when the Steelers had their dynasty of winning 4 Super Bowls. He was the coach when Franco Harris had the immaculate reception that won a game in the playoffs, and eventually the Steelers won that decade 4 Super Bowls. So Madden was during that decade when they were good, when the Cowboys were good, and yet he did win the Super Bowl, the 76 season, with a win against the Vikings, who had unfortunately lost 4 times in the Super Bowl. So last night I was watching Texas Tech, and Sonny Cumbie, what a great story he's going to be at Louisiana Tech. Their coach is going to, the defensive coordinator's going to Abilene Christian to take over there. And we're going to hear from the Ole Miss defensive coordinators here in just a second. But they beat Mississippi down. And the Big 12 gets the nice win there. Now, West Virginia was beaten, and they were very sluggish, 18-6 by Minnesota. But the SEC's lost 3 games in the bowls to Group of Fives. Now, Alabama plays Cincinnati. That's a Group of 5. We don't know what's going to happen there. I think what most people think might happen. But then last night, Mississippi State, in a game Mike Leach would rather win that than maybe any other game he's played since the time he was fired. And I mean, the SEC has no-showed so far during the bowls. And then they did the same thing basically last year, other than what Alabama, of course, did by putting the cherry on top of their national title.
Did you ask a question?
Yeah, I did.
I didn't.
I said that the SEC has no-showed, and didn't they do this basically last year, other than what Alabama made their run to win the cherry on top and win the national title? I mean, they have not. They've been terrible. Yeah,
well, and look, there was an absolute last night. Mike Leach. I was kind of curious to see how that game went because, he had a little extra sauce on that one because of his history with Texas Tech and what he feels he's still owed. But, yeah, they haven't done anything. And again, I do think it's silly to measure things totally by bowl games. Because,
no, I'm not saying you do.
But
when you win them, you sure do.
But the reason it's silly is because the SEC does that. The SEC is like, well, we won all these bowl games.
Yeah.
Okay, did more of your guys stay? Did less of them have COVID? Like, what was your reasoning for this year? What was the reason that you guys were the best? And so because of that, like, if you're going to use that metric as SEC fans and we're better than everybody and we do all this, then maybe you have to accept it when it stings you on the other way.
No, not maybe. You do.
Yeah.
You do. You can't pick and choose. You can't say Georgia 2 or 3 years ago when Texas beat them up. Well, we really didn't have anything to play for.
But that's what they say, though.
Yeah.
That's what I'm sure there's Mississippi State fans that are like, oh, we didn't care to be there, or we had guys missing with COVID or whatever. I mean, but one team looked like they wanted to be there, and that was Tech. And I give Sonny Cumbie a lot of credit. I know that's gonna kickstart their offseason, and they're going to be an energetic team. And I saw, I think it was like Bill Jones or somebody's talking about they're really going to have the identity of Baylor, and they're going to be really physical. I think Tech's always kind of been physical. I don't think they've ever been like super soft. I don't think they've necessarily been good, but they've been physical. Could they take a step up there? Sure. Could they take a step up in energy? Sure. And I think we started to see maybe the early signs of that Joey McGuire is going to go to the very long offseason that he's already had with a lot of momentum because of, all the time that he had to be able to get recruiting done. And then, being around he's been there for 2 months now?
Yeah.
He's been there for 2 months. He's not
November the 8th.
Not even coached a game yet.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, Baylor went on to win the Big 12. So he's been able to build a lot of hype already in that short amount of time. And I'm sure that will now just continue on into the offseason because barring something bad in the offseason, which is, what would that be? Like a guy gets in trouble or something, there's no reason to have a bad offseason. So the hype machine is just going to continue to grow for Texas Tech. And, I'm sure there'll be a team that is mentioned next year as one of the, the teams to watch out for. And we'll get to finally see what a Joey McGuire team actually looks like. But, yeah, last night they looked impressive, and I'm sure that made a lot of Louisiana Tech fans excited about the future since that's the head coach that they'll be, following along here now after last night.
Yeah, we'll have Carlos Silva, who covers Tech at 4:30, just to kind of discuss the offseason moving forward. You cannot say a conference is good or bad based on bowl records. And someone, John, just on the chat room goes, well, the lower tier teams have played. Well, one of the things we hear about the SEC is how good and deep they are. And yes, sometimes a lot of teams that are a part of the midsection of the SEC have ridden that Alabama wave and said, well, we win national championships. Yeah, Alabama does. I know Auburn has won one and all that, and we get that. LSU.
Look, that's kind of like Tom Brady's friends bragging about how he married a supermodel.
Exactly.
He did.
And we're not saying you judge him, but it is the three group of 5 teams. That's the thing that kind of surprised me. And last night, Texas Tech beat the hell out of Mississippi State in a game that had meaning. No matter what, and I do know, and I do understand that Mississippi State had players. They introduced it right before the start of the opening kickoff that they had players out, and that's the other story, of course, that's going on today. SMU is supposed to play Virginia. That game was canceled. I mentioned Maryland right now up 14, now 17 on Virginia Tech. Clemson, Iowa State this afternoon. Oregon and Oklahoma, 2 good ones tonight, or this afternoon here as well as they play at Fenway Park. In fact, Clemson, Iowa State, Oregon, and Oklahoma are in the Alamo Bowl down in San Antonio with Bob Stoops coaching that team. All right, Baylor and Ole Miss. We've seen the media sessions. Dave Aranda and Lane Kiffin were available Monday. Yesterday, Baylor's offensive coordinator, Jeff Grimes, available along with players. And then Ole Miss's defensive coordinators, the co-defensive coordinators, were available as well. DJ Durkin was asked about the overall, just the Baylor offense that they faced in the game on Saturday.
Hey, Coach, just in terms of that Baylor offense, especially with Gary Bohannon under center, what just stands out to you about what they're able to do on that side of the ball?
Yeah, I think Bohannon is a really, talented quarterback. He's a guy that can be just throwing the ball in, running it. And I think what stands out the most from their offense is their ability to run the ball. They're very well coached. They're sound at what they do. They have a scheme they know what they want to do, and they're consistent about it. They certainly want to establish the run game. And, I think really what stands out as well is the shots they take down the field. They've hit some big plays and play action shots that Thornton stands out down the field. They put that ball up to him, and he'll go run and catch it. And he's got great speed and ball skills. And so, it's a challenge for us. And we've got to make sure that we come ready to play physical and stop the run game, as well as, limit those shots down the field that I think are the game changers when you get a big chunk play.
So that's DJ Durkin, co-defensive coordinators. And then there's Chris Partridge. And, of course, one of the stories has been the Baylor running game with Abram Smith not that far away, 120 yards away from breaking the single-season rushing record set by Terrence Ganaway in 2011. Baylor putting up huge numbers on the ground after last year. They couldn't move anything. They couldn't get a yard, much less 200 and some yards a game. And his thoughts, Chris Partridge, on the Baylor running game.
DJ talked about Baylor and how they're unique in the fact that they know they're going to run it down. They're going to run it against you, but they still have that sort of success. What's that difficulty in a team where they're going to run, but they still seem to pick up 4 or 5 yards and carry?
Yeah, they're really good at what they do, right? The way they run the ball, they run stretch and and then they run it in a lot of different ways. They dress it up and they'll hit it in all different spots. So you got to be really, really sound, in all the gaps, and that's the front, the linebackers, the safeties. to edges, the corners at times. Like, everybody's got to be sound because, they hit it all over the field. And I liken it a little bit to like Mississippi State in the pass game, right, where they only run a certain amount of plays, but they know all the issues with it and they know where to hit it, where to put the ball. Baylor's similar in the run game. So it's something where, we got to get negative plays. We got to knock them back. And we got to rally, we got to be gap sound, and we got to tackle and, play sound fundamental football and play hard. Get 11 guys running at the running back and hit whenever, it'll knock them back and force them to throw the ball down the field.
All right, so both teams have had a lot of time off, and we don't know. And like I mentioned, there's a game that was supposed to be played today that's canceled. There's been, 5-6 bowl games canceled, a lot of college basketball games. TCU, Kansas, Saturday canceled in basketball. TCU, West Virginia, Monday has been canceled in basketball. It's almost like you just close your eyes and hope. And we don't know what's going to happen here, but so far with teams arriving today, they move things back to try to be a little more careful. Who has had the advantage by having the time off?
You'd say it's hard to say because you don't know who are the little injuries that.
Well, how about this? How about we start with this? Gary Bohannon's going to play this Saturday, and if they would have played a week or two ago, he probably doesn't. And we know that Blake Shapen wouldn't have played.
Yeah, so maybe Baylor in that. I don't know what tips the scales of that, because there are some. I mean, we don't cover Ole Miss, so we don't know the ins and outs and the little bitty, things that the guys that, help them in this regard and that regard that might not be as big of a name. But yeah, I think Baylor, at least having one of their guys who started at quarterback this year is big. It's huge, probably much bigger than anything you could imagine, considering that, Blake Shapen did get hurt in that game.
Yeah, the Shapen thing sucks. I mean, I wanted to see what they were going to have to do if he was available, but now it's just by default Gary Bohannon, rather than, one of those guys having to win the job in the Sugar Bowl. And so now we'll have, 8 months before we actually get the question of who's better, Shapen or Bohannon, even though I think people probably already have an opinion on that. But, from a coach's standpoint, we're not going to see a new starting quarterback until next season's kickoff. So that'll be a spring storyline and an all throughout the summer storyline, but we should have seen it this Saturday. We should have seen it. And unfortunately, Shapen got hurt. Makes his performance in the Big 12 championship game that much more impressive, that he fought through whatever was bad enough to keep him out for an entire month afterwards. He played the entire game. It's pretty impressive stuff, and I know a lot of people were impressed by the throws he made when he was healthy in that game before taking the hit that kind of changed things and really opened the door to Oklahoma State getting back in the football game, because there was a definite shift when Shapen was hurt and that offense suddenly starting to struggle, because before that they were not struggling. And I do give some credit to Oklahoma State's defense, but I don't think that was all that it was. I think it was that Blake Shapen was suddenly dinged up. So, yeah, I think from that standpoint, you look on the other side, and I don't know, they maybe got a couple guys missing here or there, but no one bowed out of the bowl game on either side. So everybody that's healthy is going to play. And I don't know what their COVID situation is, because that was kind of the question before getting here, and we haven't heard anything in 2 days on it, so I don't know if that's good or bad. But so long as all that remains true, that everybody's expected to play except for Blake Shapen, then yeah, I would say for Baylor, it was far more important to have that time to get Gary Bohannon ready.
Well, look, I hope it's not a UCLA situation that, all of a sudden you're like, oh, hey, by the way, we've got more COVID problems than we let on. But of course, we'll know probably pretty rapidly, because once they get here, the COVID testing is kind of out of the school's hands and into the bowl's hands, because they got to know.
Yeah, I mean, they had Kiffin didn't elaborate on what the issue was. He just said they had a few players that were dealing with it. That was on Monday. Again, we haven't heard a single peep since then. So, I mean, maybe that's good news. But like you said, I'm sure we'll hear a lot more. And, yeah, I wouldn't want it to turn into that kind of a situation, and I doubt that it would. But, being the Sugar Bowl and not the get off my couch bowl or whatever, they're going to do everything I'd imagine they can to play this football game. And, by the way, Ole Miss – just saw a note on them where they are expected to hire Charlie Weiss Jr. as their new offensive coordinator. Just saw that a couple minutes ago.
He's been at South Florida.
Yeah.
He also was on a staff at Alabama, I think, when Kiffin might have been there under Nick Saban, and also coached at Florida Atlantic when Kiffin was there as well.
So he will be replacing Jeff Lebby, who, of course, is going to be off to Oklahoma after Saturday's game. So, yeah, Charlie Weiss Jr. from USF, the new OC at Ole Miss.
Well, there you go with that. So that's the job. That is their next offensive coordinator. And, of course, his father was pretty good with the Patriots. And then, obviously, Notre Dame, okay. And then everything just blew up after that with Charlie Weiss. So the team's arriving today. Hope you've had a really good few days around Christmas, of course, Saturday, and now New Year's coming up. We're in New Orleans. We hope to be. Hopefully everything stays on schedule. In New Orleans, Louisiana for New Year's Eve. We were here 2 years ago in New Orleans for New Year's Eve, and it was, like any other place. You think this place might even be more raucous. It was okay. But we're excited to be here, and our sponsors are amazing to help us be here, and we'll be here throughout the next 4 days with coverage of Baylor and Ole Miss.
Yeah, this is a much different New Orleans than 2 years ago, though. It's COVID New Orleans. Masks all the time, basically. I think this right now is the longest I've sat without a mask all day long, basically, since being at the airport, because everybody wears them around here. And, I can't tell. We're not really in an area where there's like a lot of bustling traffic everywhere you look. So I don't know like how crowded it is in certain other areas, but I'm sure we'll find that out, as the days go by. But, yeah, it's kind of a different vibe due to the COVID. I think it's also a different vibe due to the fact that we're not already, talking about Baylor's head coach and whether or not he's going to be the NFL for the next, several days, because that's all we did the last time that we were in New Orleans. When you think about it, that's all we talked about. We didn't talk about the Georgia game, really.
Even with him. I mean,
even with Matt Rule. Yeah. We didn't even talk about the Georgia game. But, thankfully, that's not the case this year. Unfortunately, the COVID thing is, and hopefully, again, that doesn't come into play as far as the game goes. But it's a little bit different, but it's still New Orleans, and it'll be cool.
I'm interested to see on the COVID thing how this last month of things changed. I mean, the CDC is already changing recommendations.
But you know why, though?
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah.
Not because that's the health thing to do, because that's what the airlines wanted.
Yeah, but they had to do something. But then again, like, what are we supposed to understand and believe, and how do we move forward on this one and the next variant and all that?
You saw college football, they got caught with their pants down again. Yeah. They got caught with their pants down in bowl season because they had to go, oh, wait a second. And all of a sudden, you get these teams from different conferences playing each other, and you realize, oh, yeah, everybody's got like a different set of rules or a different state or a different whatever. And I think that's just another example of NCAA leadership or whoever's in charge of that not being on top of their game. Because how does this – I understand that the variant or whatever, all that's like kind of happening as we speak, but you just got totally gobsmacked by this. Like the bowl season just got wiped out almost entirely because you were just like, uh-oh, what do we do? And, thankfully, there was that change in guidance. So, like in Ole Miss, for example, if they were having problems on Monday, they could have players playing by Saturday, technically, I guess, if they go by the new CDC guidance. But, yeah, that's certainly thrown bowl season for an absolute loop. And, hopefully that's not something that impacts these two teams.
All right, we will come back. But Armstrong Sims and Jack McKenzie, I just caught Jack rubbing his eyes. Jack, that's not allowed. Armstrong and Jack left Waco at 4:47 this morning, I think, is when the text came through, and made it here just after noon. An incredible time, a 400-plus mile trip, because one of the things we had to drive, it really wasn't the cost of the airline for two people. It was the equipment that would have cost thousands of dollars, and you drove in, you two did, and we'll have Jack on a little bit later on if he can stay awake. Pretty smooth trip. You're glad to be here. We're glad you guys are here with us, because otherwise we'd be doing a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, actually it was pretty smooth. Jack drove most of the way. We left at like 4:35-ish and made it here at 12:30. I was a little late, and Jack did most of the packing, to be honest. But
you were late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jack did most of the packing, most of the driving, and Armstrong was late.
I slept for most of the drive.
Yeah, but that's one of those drives
that's why Jack
that early. You just want to get on the road. No talking, just get on the road.
There was no talking until about like 3 hours in.
Yeah.
When Armstrong woke up and was like, hey, how are we doing? Are we in Louisiana?
Yeah. No, we missed New Orleans, and we missed the exit. We're in Mississippi.
So essentially, like, Armstrong woke up around Beaumont. It's like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah. Okay.
He pulled over and said, I need you to drive. This is getting unsafe how tired I am.
Jack, that's not the most fun drive either.
No.
Like, that's just not the most entertaining drive. I've done Texas, Louisiana, and I've done, like, Tyler to Louisiana, which is a normal route. That's like 2 hours. It's like going to Dallas. But going anywhere else, that's further away to Louisiana, it's
Yeah,
it's not the most fun.
I'm doing it on Sunday on the way back because the flights out of here were so
especially from
ridiculous.
New Orleans.
We were
New Orleans
thinking
is
about
so
it.
much further away.
We got a break with Tom Flores on John Madden's passing and his impact on just not the Raiders but also the NFL. But Jack and Armstrong are here. It's great to have you here. Thanks to Avery Bowerman. She's the one that helped set us up with this location. Thanks to Carlos for setting us up technologically, along with his staff as well. Among others, John Sudsbury of the Sugar Bowl Media Relations. He's been phenomenal. We've got a couple of former players that have done well in the SEC, in the Sugar Bowl tomorrow. But George Teague, who had that incredible play against Miami in the shocking upset that won the national championship in '93 Sugar Bowl, he'll join us today at 5 o'clock. We have Jake Gibbs. I think it's Jake Gibbs who played in the 1961 Sugar Bowl for Ole Miss. He's being inducted to the Sugar Bowl Hall of Fame. He'll join us tomorrow. And Dusty Renfro, who played at the University of Texas in the mid to late 90s.
Yeah, I did think it was noticeable as well that a couple of Baylor's newest hires are with him on this trip. Colin D'Angelo, who is going to be working with safeties. With Matthew Powledge leaving, but Colin D'Angelo was somebody that had been brought up. He's actually back in Louisiana, but he posted a home sweet home picture. And then Brian Bell is on the trip. China Spring head coach turned Baylor assistant. He's with the Bears as well.
First time he's done anything publicly since the news came down that he had informed his team he was no longer the football coach at China Spring, and the report from Matt Stepp that he was joining the team at Baylor. When we come back, Tom Flores, Hall of Famer this year. That last year, actually. It was delayed. He will come on with us. We've had Tom a couple of different times on his career, but on John Madden, his impact on the Raiders franchise and the National Football League, and, of course, generations after that, next on Sikkim 365 Radio.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac. Got a lot of great deals going on right now over at Richard Carr. Of course, there's been the issues with having enough inventory. That's been going on for quite a while now, as dealerships all over the country have been having to sort of navigate their way around that, and Richard Carr has done their best to do so. They've gotten around some of those supply chain challenges, and they're making new cars and trucks as available as possible. New cars and trucks are arriving, and they continue to arrive. Richard Carr is receiving deliveries each week, and now is the time to contact the dealership to get your name on a new Buick, GMC, or Cadillac as they are being shipped. Get on Richard Carr's inbound vehicle list, and you can get your new car or truck as they arrive. If you're looking for a pickup, check out the Sierra. It's got it all. Power for a work site, luxury interior for a drive on the town at night. And Richard Carr also has more SUVs than any other dealer. More than 11 SUV models to choose from with dozens of trim options. Richard Carr is the one-stop shop to find that perfect SUV for your needs. Whether it's the fun and nimble Buick Encore or the sophistication and luxury of a Cadillac Escalade, Richard Carr has the SUV you need in all sizes and price ranges, so call now, come by now, or go online to find the perfect SUV for your family. But they're also, if you're not in the market for a new car, loaded with premium pre-owned cars and trucks as well. All have gone through a 172-point inspection, so go online or come by for a test drive today. For those in the Waco area, Richard Carr is your local hometown dealership. Give them a chance to earn your business with great prices, free oil changes on new cars and trucks, and superior service after the sale. Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, owned and operated and run by loyal and proud Baylor Bears that look forward to seeing their friends at the dealership or in the stands.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world?
by not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference, and that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
American Bank has been serving Waco since 1952, and we're just getting started. Hi, I'm President and CEO Dana Hassel. Over the past few years, we've been busy investing in new technology to give you the best banking experience possible. We've also expanded our downtown branch and built 2 state-of-the-art buildings at our Woodway and Belmead locations. With bright open lobbies, plus fast, personal, interactive teller machines, everyone in Waco is now just minutes away from face-to-face banking. Visit us today and see how we're invested in serving you at American Bank. Member FDIC.
Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Yesterday, the news, watching college football, the news that John Madden had passed away, the Hall of Famer. 2 different ways as a head football coach of the Raiders, and also for his impact when it comes to broadcasting as a broadcaster, and then in the impact of business-wise with Madden, the great game. We'll hear from former Raiders head coach Tom Flores, who coached under John Madden, played with the Raiders as well. He'll join us here momentarily on Sikkim 365 Radio. When did Madden start? What was it, the 90s? When did it actually start?
It was in the early 90s, like 93, 94. Well, probably 92, 93. I was playing it on the Sega Genesis, so.
I have one story of John Madden back covering a Cowboys training camp when he used to come in on his bus at camp. This is in Oxnard, California. And we had an RV. Mike LaRue, the engineer, set us up with this great setup right there on Cowboys training camp at headquarters. And Madden was there. And he was there, and he was in the office of Rich Dalrymple, who's been a long-time media relations director, vice president of media relations for the Cowboys since Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones arrived. And Madden, he tried the chill. He loved it, the cooking. Then he asked me a question about Tyler Junior College and a player who had been there as the first player to be drafted by the NFL out of Tyler, and I got it wrong, and he scolded me for it. You wonder if he would have been about as good a dude to ever sit down and drink a beer with.
Well, I mean, I think that was part of the draw of John Madden. The reason that he was such a great celebrity endorser, whether it was beer or Outback Steakhouse or whatever it was, he had no. Tom Brady is the big endorser now. But I do think that like the guy who has that same kind of quality instead of Tom Brady, because he seems like he's in a Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods-esque stratosphere where it's like if you were around him, you'd be afraid to even get near him because it was just there's this aura about him. But Gronk has that kind of thing now where it's like, yeah, I think we all know a Gronk. We can all hang out with Gronk. We can all party with Gronk. John Madden had that. Like, I want to be in a room with this guy. I want to hear him tell stories, kind of a vibe to him, because he was just so amazingly good and so well balanced out by Pat Summerall on that broadcast that I can't imagine a better team. I mean, no matter what anybody does for the rest of the history of the NFL, in my opinion, the GOAT team is Summerall and Madden.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to ever beat those two. And of course, Summerall, part of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, is a player with the New York Giants and then a broadcaster as well. Here, you think about the young players and all the veterans today that I see the most of. I just wrote these 5 names down on endorsements. Patrick Mahomes, Gronkowski, Baker Mayfield, Aaron Rodgers, and Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Is there one that should penetrate those 5 and kick somebody out? I don't know. Those are the 5 that I can think of right now. They are everywhere. It's not just one thing. Oh, Gronk does the USAA, which is the insurance that I have, car insurance that I have. And Craig, you have it as well.
Me too.
Yeah, you too. And he does that. He's fun. Oh, what do you mean? I'm Gronk, right? But that's not the only
his
one.
Ridiculous Buffalo accent. Frank was in the Army.
Yeah, I'd say Marshawn Lynch, but he's not a present player, but he was kind of that way. But yeah, Madden, I think, too, was just kind of like, kind of reminiscent of somebody's grandfather in a way as well. At least, the age difference that I had, I kind of looked at him that way. I could see him that way. But yeah, he's tremendous at what he did. I mean, to be quite honest with you, there were a lot of times towards the end he said things that didn't really make that much sense or whatever, but it was Madden. So, it was just like a free pass to, he could do no wrong, really. And that broadcast crew, like I said earlier, was the soundtrack of me watching football growing up, in terms of on Sundays at least. And they never weren't doing Cowboys games, it felt like. It was always Summerall and Madden on Cowboys games. At least that's the way that I remember it. But that was because Dallas was so good at the time. They were in their little mid-90s run, and that was just the heyday as well of Summerall and Madden, and they went hand in hand.
Hey, Nate Newton
I'm going to go try to call him from my number.
And Nate Newton is infinitely more famous because of John Madden than he would have been. Because of the way that the Dallas offensive line. Do people know who Mark Tuinei is because of, because he blocked for Aikman? No, yes, a little bit, but they really kind of know him because of John Madden circling the sweat running down the offensive lineman's legs.
Yeah.
I remember him, I think it was Randall McDaniel, pulling and leading Ricky Waters on a touchdown. And Madden was so excited about him leading the block 30 yards down the field in this run. Derek Deese, one of those guys. Randall McDaniel played for the Vikings. But like one of those dudes that just here he is leading on this block and all those different things. And he got excited about that. He got excited about Larry Allen. He got excited about that because that's what he believed in as the core of football. And nobody highlighted them like he did. And of course, for Craig, for your and I Jack is a gamer now, but back when, that was the only really good sports video game that existed was Madden football.
I'll disagree slightly and say NHL 94 and King Griffey Jr.'s baseball and NBA Jam. But, those were all kind of in the same time period. But I know what your point is. It's like, those other franchises have either gone away or gone different or whatever, and Madden's just been the mainstay the entire time. But, when you got that Madden video game, they're so terrible to play now, those early ones. They're awful to play now, but they were amazing to play at the time. And I'm sure there's a few older versions that are still pretty fun to play, but I don't know. I popped one in a while back, like 94 or something like that, and I was like, this is so slow. The graphics are awful. But at the time, it was like this. It was like being in the NFL, and I've lost touch with playing those games the last few years, but still have plenty of buddies who, buy it religiously and probably always will. And, certainly that game's going to, take a hit just in terms of, not necessarily people playing or buying it or anything like that, but just the fact that he's not around anymore, I think that definitely is just it's kind of a bummer that we'll all remember, whenever you pop the game in, you hear his voice or you see his graphic or whatever, you have to be like, oh, yeah, he's not here anymore. It's a big loss. He was a cutting-edge personality and somebody who is no doubt a Hall of Famer. There's no argument against that. And we're talking all about him as an announcer. He was a coach as well. He did a lot of other things, spokesperson and all that we've talked about. So, just an incredible human being.
Spokesperson, broadcaster, businessman, and also a hell of a head football coach who ranted and raved, big man across up and down. And there was something I did not know about him until I watched part of that story last night, is that he didn't ever play it down in the NFL because of a knee injury that he had coming out of college. He was across the board in every particular way a Hall of Famer. Struggling to get Tom Flores. I hate that because we had him scheduled for 3:30 and he's been with us 2 or 3 times before So some of the text line, some of the chat room, John Boom Madden, R.I.P., we love you. One of my favorite broadcasters, and Madden will be remembered for that hard-hitting Oakland defense. The Raiders' D really put the hurt on many offenses during that time. And Madden will be remembered for jumping on the video game train early, and no question about that as well.
There's one, I think I saw maybe on his Wikipedia page last night or something, just was going and reading about him a little bit, but I don't know where I read. I think it was on there, but regardless, apparently when he first started the deal with EA Sports back, I guess they got to talking like the video game talk kind of began in the late 80s and didn't really get off the ground until the early 90s because there was obviously a lot of work to do. But apparently when all that started, he was offered an unlimited number of stock opportunities with EA Sports, to which he turned it down and said it's one of the greatest regrets of his life because he could have, oh my gosh, he could have been not a billionaire, but I mean, he already was I'm sure very well off. I don't know exactly, but I'm sure he did just fine for himself with all that he did. But man, stock options in EA that early on, with the Madden franchise about to launch,
I think what a lot of people don't realize is that it wasn't just his name and his voice. Like he sat in the room and told them, "This is how you need to draw up the plays. These are smart things. These are dumb things. These are bad things from other video games." Which he sat in a room and watched them play other video games and said, "That's stupid. That would never happen. Let's make this real." Then one time when I was hosting the show with John Morris, back 10, 11, 12 years ago, he got Pat Summerall on the show, and I asked Pat Summerall about, voicing Madden, and he said that was the hardest work he and John ever did. The hardest thing they ever had to do, the weeks of work that they did where, you'd be there all day and be like, Cunningham with a touchdown pass. And then they'd come back a week later and be like, we need you to say Cunningham again. We need you to say Aikman again. The way you say Smith is wrong. John, we need 25 more booms from you because, they're all different. And Madden's like, well, I just say boom. That's what I say. Yeah. He's like, no, well, you need to say it like different ways, and it was really hard. But again, worth the money, I'm sure.
Let's take a break. JJ Joe will join us, former Baylor quarterback, part of Baylor Radio, the color analyst at 4:00 today. Also, a little bit later on, we check in with Carlos Silva on Texas Tech's win against Mississippi State and more. We have much more to get to. George Teague at 5. Take a break. Let's see if we can track down Tom Flores. Sorry about this. He's been on time with us before, and we'll try to do that again. And this is Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. We're covering the Sugar Bowl this week, the All-State Sugar Bowl inside the Marriott Media Hotel, which is on in the Arts District of New Orleans, Louisiana, across from the Convention Center. Back in a moment. Dr. Kent Petty and his staff can help you become a higher performance man, the one that maybe you can be or used to be and what you need to be. PettyClinicLowT.com. Go to their website, top left-hand corner. There's a phone number and an email address. You could contact them either way. Tell them I sent you. What you can, in fact, the other day, they do, if you get blood work done, if you're getting lab work done, they can give you a discounted price and in some cases waive all of it. To get your blood work, he will then look at your samples, he'll look at your testosterone level, and if it's too low, he can put you in a program to help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, used to be, and need to be. It's that simple. If you feel like you're lethargic, if your sex drive is not what it used to be, if your sleep habits are not good as well, it could be a combination of other things too, but it also could be your testosterone levels. 1 out of every 3 men, they drop as you get older. It's PettyClinicLowT.com.
The 2021 Ram brand just received first place in the prestigious J.D. Power's Initial Quality. The Dodge brand finished second to Ram, and the 2021 Jeep Gladiator is rated first among all mid-sized trucks. The Big Finish sales event, only at Allen Samuels, 201 West Loop 340 in Waco.
Come by, let's be friends.
Texas board-certified personal injury trial lawyer and Baylor alum David Willis and Baylor alum Parker Willis are ready to help if you or a loved one has been wrongfully injured in an auto accident, SUV rollover, industrial accident, 18-wheeler crash, or were seriously injured by a defective product or recall drug. Call them for a confidential and free case consultation at 1-800-GOT-HURT or visit them at texastriallawyer.com. Principal office located in Houston, Texas.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
When it comes to me and my money, I know the way it should be. I need a partner I can count on. That's Genco and me.
Genco has extended their offer till the end of the year. Refinance your vehicle today at Genco with rates as low as 1.69% for 48 months. And have 90 days of no payments. Refinancing can lower your payment, so you pay less for your car. Apply online and get an additional 0.1% off our already low rate. You can't pass on rates this low and make no payments for 90 days. For more information, go to GencoFCU.org.
Annual percentage rate subject to change without notice, subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. NCUA, Equal Housing Lender.
They're people I trust. They treat me like family. My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
The year is wrapping up, sports bettors, but BetUS still has your NBA, NHL, college football bowls, UFC, PGA, and of course NFL betting lines up for their 27th year. Live betting on all of it. Log in to BetUS.com today. Use our promo codes SICK'em125 for a 125% bonus on cash, or SICK'em200 if you use crypto. So use the 3-decade leader, BetUS.com. Use promo code SICK'em125 and SICK'em200.
Masters of Barbecue, kings of crazy good food, and the perfect sanctuary for sports, beer, and barbecue is Coach's XXX Smoke on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco and also on Highway 84 in McGregor. A menu filled with choices like a great offensive playbook, including 3 meat combos with sides, burgers, and sandwiches, wings, loaded giant spuds, and salads, crazy wings, chicken poppers, big boy fries, and smoking quesadillas, just some of their amazing appetizers. There's Coach Big Ol' Draft Beer, or order Zach's Spicy Bloody Mary, or Coach's margaritas and mimosas while watching your favorite team play. Great pecan smoked barbecue, fun atmosphere with attention to detail, including a catering menu, and we'll quote your price to fit your budget. Coach's XXX Smoke on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco, and walking distance to the great places to shop and enjoy, and also the original location on Highway 84 in McGregor. Great food, great price, great fun. Eat where the locals eat.
Welcome back to Sick'em 365 Radio.
Sick'em 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
We are back inside the Marriott Hotel in New Orleans. Sugar Bowl, All-State Sugar Bowl coming up Saturday evening, a 7:45 kick, Baylor and Ole Miss. Game going on right now in college football. Maryland 41-10 hammering Virginia Tech. Both teams came in at 6-6. Canceled game, SMU Virginia. That's been a couple of days old there. And then two, I think this is of interest, Clemson and Iowa State, because of how Clemson ended the year. Iowa State at 7-5. And I don't think they're going to have Mike Rose in this game against Clemson. And then Oregon and Oklahoma. Oregon with a coaching change, Oklahoma with a coaching change. Bob Stoops back to coach his Sooners. He coached so well for many years, including the second year winning the national championship. And, I know Bill Snyder came back a second time. There's been coaches that have done that. Not a lot. But what Stoops did, you talk about a guy that is everything Oklahoma. I know he's been doing Fox, but, as soon as they needed him, he probably I would think they may not win the game. I don't know, but he is beloved, and all he did was just solidify that with what he's done the last 2 or 3 weeks.
The quote I heard was that they probably need to build a second statue of him. But
all in on this.
Yeah. No, he's what you would love to have if you were any university out there. Not a lot of people have a guy like him that can just slip in and do what he's being asked to do or volunteered to do. First of all, it's not a situation that happens all that regularly where you have your coach completely pull the wool over your eyes and basically just, I don't even know how you describe what Lincoln Riley did really, but a situation like that is pretty abnormal and unique. And for him to see that Oklahoma was at a real trouble spot, I mean, quite frankly, with the uncertainty of not having a head coach, now it's a little different because it's Brent Venables. But when you didn't know who it was, there's a real chance that Oklahoma could go sideways really quickly if they didn't have the bleeding stop or the right hire, and he helped make the bleeding stop and gave everybody a little bit of a moment to go, okay, it's going to be fine, Bob's here. And then, sure enough, everybody kind of calmed down, and then they hire Brent Venables, and now the world's right again. So, I think that he's an Oklahoma legend, obviously. Like you said, he's got a statue, rightfully so, and he's just doing what you would hope anybody in a similar position would do for your school.
Well, most situations are kind of like Dan Mullen at Florida, where a coach gets fired even though they're going into a bowl game, and then you're like, okay, well, who's left on the staff that can run this for 3 weeks so we can get this bowl game out of the way?
That's what Oregon's doing.
Yeah, exactly. You.
Yeah.
Hey, you're in charge. Don't leave until January 2nd. I mean, that's what it is.
I'm trying to think and I know there's been so many coaching changes, and that's 2 teams tonight, Oregon and Oklahoma. But Sonny Cumbie did a hell of a job, obviously, getting ready for their bowl game against Mississippi State. And I don't know, again, there's other coaches. Florida, they lost, right? Did they lose, Paul, their game? Okay.
And then they started a fight with UCF at the end of it. Yeah, everything went great.
Yeah, that was so childish.
That night in Tampa.
That was so, wait a minute. We lost to you, and it meant a lot to UCF, and I don't care whether it meant a lot to Florida or not. You're playing a damn game. You're getting a scholarship. That was so childish, the way they started picking a little brouhaha, and maybe UCF was talking some crap, and you know what? They should have been. I'm getting, you can tell, based on some of the things I've said already in the first hour of today, Happy New Year, by the way, coming up, is that the excuses. The excuses of, well, yes, and opt-outs are a part of it. The transfer portal, coaching changes, COVID, it all matters. It does. But I just, you know what? You lose. Stop telling me you had 4 players out, or just take your loss and move on, because you wouldn't use it if it was the other way around.
You would help coaches quit being able to be like this, and this. And coaches sometimes have a right to say what they do because it's true. But maybe if you find a way to incentivize the players to stay for the bowl games, then maybe you wouldn't have to worry about it. The transfer portal is probably going to be transfer portal, but otherwise you can cut them in for some of the money.
And it can be for whatever reason, but ultimately it's going to go down the record books as a win or a loss. Mm-hmm. So, I don't think 20 years from now we're really going to be parsing over, why the Gasparilla Bowl champion won the Gasparilla Bowl because, the other team had 5 guys out, and we're not going to remember any of that. Mm-hmm. It's all going to be the trophy that you see. If Ole Miss had half their team missing and Baylor won the Sugar Bowl on Saturday, which isn't the case, Ole Miss seems to be healthy. But you're going to, if you were Baylor, would you look at that Sugar Bowl and be like, you know what, it's not the same? No, hell no, you wouldn't do that. That's stupid. That is dumb. Of course you would celebrate the Sugar Bowl. Is Ole Miss, if they win it, going to be like, no, of course they're going to celebrate it, not regardless of the circumstances. So, I don't really get into the whole the bowl thing on, the SEC in particular that you brought up. I do think it has a lot to do with a lot of those things, but who cares? Who cares at the end of the day? It's a bowl game. There's a winner. There's a loser. Nobody's going to remember that such and such A&M had, 15 players out. Nobody's going to remember that Texas Tech, kicked ass last night because the other team has the Texas Tech's got a big bowl win, and they're going to carry that over, and they're not going to look at that bowl win and be like, you know what, we shouldn't get too excited over this because the other team wasn't full. No, that's stupid. They're going to go add that trophy, brag about it, and use it to recruit, and that's what every team should do. If you want to do the whole, it's because of this, who cares really? Who cares?
Here's the thing that bothers me, and this is get off my lawn. I'd never heard of any of this crap until recently. First of all, we'd never heard of COVID, so that's the once-in-a-100-year thing, whatever you call it. Okay, that's one thing. And there were no opt-outs. It wasn't a part of the game, and I know things change, and, of course, players didn't get paid. But, when I think about the bowl games that team I like won or lost in the 70s or the 80s or the 90s, and they won a bunch, I wouldn't know any of that, right? Because it wasn't around. And so now it's almost like feeding the narrative. And I said this the other day. Colin Cowherd, who I don't agree with a lot of things he says, but he made a point, I don't know what it was about, but it was about excuses. And we are in such a state now, across the board in everything we do, of excuse making and bitching and moaning about everything instead of just getting through it, finding solutions, and accepting when you get beat or you are wrong.
I'll give you Dan Mullen, and this actually could maybe highlight why Dan Mullen is no longer there. But 2 years ago, when Baylor played Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, Georgia had 4 or 5 pretty major opt-outs, big guys, and it made zero difference, none at all in the game. The only difference it might have made is Georgia might have scored another touchdown.
Yeah, they would have won by more.
But they would have won by a little bit more. But they still completely dominated the game. Florida plays Oklahoma last year was that the Cotton Bowl? They played them in the Cotton Bowl, right? And
dude, I can't even remember, honestly. That's how much it matters to me.
But Oklahoma beat the ever-loving dog crap out of them. And, yes, Kyle Trask and Kyle Pitts both opted out. But Dan Mullen spent the entire post-game press conference complaining about how this is our third string and this is not fair. Well, your rival across the way had the same thing happen a year ago and beat a good team handily. So it really is more on you for get better players that when they step up don't lose the game.
How much of this, and I know we're getting off track here, and I'm going to try to reschedule Tom Flores for sometime during the day's show. It drives me nuts he's not available. How much of this is social media driven?
I mean, we're talking about probably a couple people that are trying to make excuses for a bowl loss. Like, who cares? I mean, honestly, like if somebody wants to waste their time trying to explain why your team lost a bowl game that no one really cares about, I mean, go for it. But I don't care. I don't care that your team was missing players. I don't care that there was an injury. I don't care that the pregame, it doesn't matter to me. It's just it's a bowl game. It was a game. You walked in with who you had. I mean, do you do this for every loss? I think we're already, no disrespect, but I think we're probably giving too much energy to those people because it is what it is. Somebody won, somebody lost. How we got there isn't really all that important, and who played isn't all that important either. It is if you want to say, well, if this would have, let's play the if game all day.
Yeah.
We can do that all day for any circumstance. So I don't think it's even that serious. Maybe if it's a national championship game and you lose 5 guys to COVID, you could say, well, hey, that would have been different. But if it's the Futon Bowl, who cares?
Yeah.
Somebody won and somebody lost, and that's all there really is to it, and it's not the end of the world either way. You don't have to feel like you need to make excuses if your team lost. You can be a little sour about it because maybe they weren't 100%, but ultimately, who cares?
Yeah, here's a Darby Brown, by the way. We saw her when we arrived here at the media hotel. Some of the media out at the airport when the Baylor team charter arrived, and Blake Shapen has a sling on his shoulder, as you could know, and then Dave Aranda mentioned that. Drew Estrada is in a boot on his left leg, in a boot, and I don't know if that means he's just being cautious or that means he's out. Obviously, he's been a go-to guy at times during the year when it comes to the passing game, and so there are some things that happened after the season. Players probably had some things tweaked. Maybe some minor surgeries. I'm not suggesting all of that. I'm just saying that's happened. It's been a month since they played.
Here's what I'll tell you. Anybody who's got a sling or a boot or something on, it's not good news. It's just you need to know how bad the news is.
Yeah, I don't think Drew Estrada's playing if he's got a boot on his foot 3 days before the Sugar Bowl. And you know what? Blake Shapen's not playing. If Baylor loses on Saturday, we could very well come in here on Monday and go, well, if Blake Shapen would, but who cares? You know what I mean? Like that, again, everybody's got their hands that they were dealt. I love the passion of people who are standing up for their teams if they lost the bowl game for whatever reason, or you're getting a little back and forth. I think that's probably what's driving most of it is just people, trolling other people over losses and whatnot. But if Baylor loses the game on Saturday, okay.
Yeah.
You won't hear me on Monday going, well, Blake Shapen was out and 2 O-linemen. I'm just not going to because it just is what it is. And given the bowl season that we've had, just teams playing, it seems miraculous at this point.
To me, that's a win. Yeah.
So every game in bowl season, we could point to something and say, well, if this would have, but what's the point?
Brad Wilson on the chat room. Baylor won a bowl game without any quarterback. No excuses.
Yeah,
Remember Johnny Jefferson? They ran for 500 yards. against North Carolina. When we come back, J.J. Joe on the Sugar Bowl, on Baylor and Ole Miss, and also the time, the off time. His thoughts about Bohannon back and shaping out, all of that and more. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace. The holidays aren't over. You got New Year's Eve coming up on Friday, New Year's Day with all the games and much more. The NFL starting to hit those last couple of games of the year in the playoffs, and maybe you're looking for something to cook for the holidays and you haven't yet done that, wherever you might go. Well, if you want to get anything that has a butcher shop, you need something from a butcher shop. Whether it's beef, pork, poultry, or seafood, Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, has what you need. A bakery. Full-fledged bakery, fresh baked bread and kolaches every single morning. And up and down the store, inside Waco Custom Marketplace, is kind of a hometown grocery store feel, from anything from Ritz crackers to Rotel tomatoes to seasonings and sauces to pasta to chips and whatever else. And if you want something really, really nice, for example, how about a prime rib for the New Year's weekend? They will put that together. They'll get that cut for you, 3 pounds, 4 pounds, whatever quality you want. They have different qualities of the beef as well. At Waco Custom Marketplace at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and 2-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Short
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Live from the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans, this is Sikkim 365 Radio.
Now he'll run it with a block. Splits. Bohannon! Touchdown, Baylor!
Our Sugar Bowl coverage is brought to you by Ideal MRI, Edward Jones Investments agents Ben Erlinson, Tom Albers, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott. Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. The Willis Law Firm. American Bank. Pioneer Steel and Pipe. Genco Federal Credit Union. Camille Johnson Realtors. Automatic Chef Canteen. BetUS.com. Coach's XXX Smoke Barbecue. Texas Farm Bureau Insurance. Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Back inside the Media Hotel, the Marriott, the Arts District, New Orleans, Louisiana. Started the second hour. We're here today, tomorrow, Friday, and of course the game on Saturday night, Baylor at Ole Miss. And we're now joined by J.J. Joe, former Baylor quarterback, and also a part of Baylor Radio as well on Sikkim 365 and 365 Sports. We've missed you, JJ, this long in-between games. We're done with this. It's time to play a game. How you been, sir?
Hey, it's been great, Smoke, to have just a few Saturdays off.
It has been nice to decompress just a little bit. The team, of course, has arrived, and Dave Aranda gave us a sneak peek on Blake Shape in the shoulder. Not probably a surprise because of what happened in the second half with Oklahoma State, and that Gary Bohannon was back almost to full throttle. Your thoughts about Bohannon having that extra week or two or three to be able to get himself ready for this game?
You know, that's huge because, I mean, if when you have a bad hamstring, it takes you a minimum of a month. And then more than likely that 4 to 6 weeks, he's in about, I think, 6 weeks. He did that on November 20. So he probably is right where he wants to be. Probably would like to use another week, but I like him in this game having the ability to use his legs, hopefully now. And that's my big one, Smoke, is if he can use his legs against a defense that really yields some yards on the ground, it can be really beneficial. But I'm glad to see him back, putting in a lot of work this season.
JJ, but Blake Shapen being out means that Kyron Drones is the backup. How different will it be for him preparing this week, especially since, hamstrings, Gary might be recovered from it, but it's not one of those things that anybody's going to breathe easy on until he's, on the plane back to Waco after playing 4 quarters.
Yeah, no, he has to be game ready. Now, I haven't had a chance to see Kyron much or get to know him, but I'm anticipating that he understands the elevated level of readiness he has to have because, you're right. If Gary opens it up one time, we don't know until he really has to go get it, and he could be in. So I'm thinking his level of readiness is really elevated. I think it really helps to see two guys ahead of you. Shapen, he got thrown in, and he was really ready. And I have no doubt that Sean Bell, being a former QB himself and a great coach, has him prepared and has a package for him.
So, JJ, what are your thoughts on what this opportunity means for Baylor? I mean, we were here 2 years ago, and, obviously that whole week I was saying it's already a different week. One, COVID's kind of made it different, obviously, from 2 years ago. But also, we would have been talking about Matt Rule in the NFL right now for 3 hours. And instead, we're actually talking about the Sugar Bowl. But just for this team and the journey they've been on, and, in particular, guys like Bernard and Petrie, et cetera, for them to have this one last ride and cap it off with a school record 12 wins, I mean, just what do you think the sense is with this team and their goals going into Saturday?
Man, Craig, I think it's huge. I mean, let's talk here a little bit. When was the last time we won a January 1st bowl game? I don't know if we have. So I think it'll be huge from that instance that if they can get this W, it'll be huge. Then, of course, like you mentioned, school record 12th win. That would be huge. And then just, being a top 10 program. If we lose, I think potentially we would squeak. Maybe we could stay inside the top 10. But if you win, you're probably going to end up as a top 5 program. And I believe that's huge. So it goes a long way towards recruiting, helping Coach Aranda be prepared for next year and trying to really build this thing out. And then also, like you mentioned, the guys who this is their last hurrah, the Trestons and I'm not sure. I'm thinking Connor. I mean, I think I heard he has another year, but he's had a great year. He may decide to leave, but a lot of veterans on that defense as well. This is their last hurrah, so they really want this one.
You mentioned that to end up in the top 10. We've seen what happened 2 years ago. We saw the 2 years they won the Big 12 title actually during the regular season in 13 and 14, and they didn't finish. With that, they blew a tire against Central Florida, and then they blew a fourth quarter against Michigan State. Yeah, it is important. It's nice to be a part of that conversation, but it'd be nice to say you finished 4th or 5th or whatever it would be in the country.
Yeah, and you're going to play, Smoak, you're going to play a SEC team. Now people will say, well, it's the third best SEC team. It's not Alabama or Georgia, but I think Ole Miss is a really good team. That of course Baylor has a hard time beating. It'll take their full effort. But it's a really good team. And if you can beat them, and then what happens is, you're playing Saturday night or New Year's night. You're probably the only show in town. You win. You're a top 5 program. Coach Aranda already probably can get in any house he wants to in Texas. But if you want to become, a national program, and Baylor started to do that, Rule kind of helped with that. You win games like this, you finish in the top 5. Then all of a sudden you can get in any home across the country, and that matters. That's huge for making that really building and solidifying that foundation.
JJ, on the Ole Miss side of things, I'm just going through their season. I think the most fair comparison to how Baylor their style of play is probably Texas A&M, and that's not even all that close to where it's A&M was a defense first team, just like Baylor is. We really haven't seen, and on the other side, we really seen these teams play a style like each other all year. So we really don't know what we're going to get on Saturday night, do we?
Now, you're right. We don't. I think the closest thing, Arkansas was really going to wanted to run the ball at them. And that was, I think, early October, and they really bludgeoned them as far as on the run game. I think they had about over 300 yards rushing. So I think, while the running schemes are different, I think Ole Miss is probably saying, hey, they're going to try to come at us and approach the game kind of like Arkansas did. But I agree. Maybe the A&M game is the closest comparison for Baylor. Man, they haven't seen this attack. This is Briles' attack. This is Levy, who we know was groomed by Briles. They're going to play fast. They're going to try to get you, confused. They're going to try to get you out of position, and then they're going to run that little Ely kid or young man, up the seam like we've seen so many times, in prior years when Briles was here. So, subs are going to be hard. Oh, Siaki, I'm hoping he's been running some wind sprints because it's going to be hard for them to sub that guy out, man.
Yeah, no doubt about that. JJ, Matt Corral, obviously a big-time player, was a Heisman favorite at one point during the season, and he's going to be playing his last ball game before going and becoming possibly the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft, or at least the number 1 quarterback taken if it were, to happen today. What are your thoughts when you watch Matt Corral?
Yeah, I was just watching. Matter of fact, you guys mentioned I was watching some A&M video, just kind of getting my mind right. But I mean, I like him. I mean, he was nicked up this year. I think they said he had a high ankle sprain, probably had some other stuff. He's not a big kid, so in Browns' offense, you're going to take some hits. That style really relies on that quarterback quite a bit. But in any case, I like him. He's going to probably be the best quarterback we've seen, and I'm kind of thinking back. Craig, I think he is by far.
Yeah.
So his ability to be mobile, I don't know how willing he's going to be, as far as being able to run the ball. But if he's willing to run it, he's going to really stress those guys, and he's going to be a tough cover. They got a good runner, and they got guys on the edge. So you got to go get 30 to get these guys. If you don't get 30, they'll beat you by 10 points.
JJ, here they are. They arrived today. They play Saturday. It's the fact that they're going to play, hopefully, the game because other games are being canceled. To finish this deal, you mentioned the 12 wins. Now you're seeing teams win 14 or 15 games in a year if they're going to win the national title. To win 12 games, that's another standard that's never been reached before, no matter what other teams have done. How cool is that in the end when you think about this team?
I mean, it's really cool. I mean, just thinking back when I played, we played 11 then, and then the bowl game was 12, and you didn't have the playoff. But I mean, just trying to get to double digits, you just really realize how much of an effort it is just to get the double digits. We had one year where we got close and just didn't get there. But I mean, to get to 12, I know people will say, hey, teams have won 13.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what matters the most, Smoak, is the fact that you finish in the top 5 in the country. That to me, and it's going to take 12 wins to do it. So you're right. To me, that then, for all of the success, and I like to look at what Baylor's doing across the platform there on campus. Your women's basketball team is a standard bearer. Your men's basketball team now is a standard bearer. Your football team has been in the Big 12 championship, and 2 out of 3 years it's won it this year. You could set yourself up for the new Big 12 that's coming to be one of the big dogs. And I think Baylor's set up for it. I think we're uniquely positioned. I think we have great coaching. And go get 12, and it really helps you move in that direction.
JJ, thank you. Appreciate it. Are you here? Did you land? Are you here tomorrow? When do you guys get in?
Oh, hey, man, me and the missus, we just took a road trip. We're just staying out of that can, man, and just road trip down. So we're here.
All right. Nice to have you, buddy. Hope to see you soon. Thank you, JJ.
Take care.
That's JJ Joe, color analyst for Baylor Radio, with us on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. And Paul's about to, in fact, get in touch with Tom Flores, who called during the interview we had with JJ Joe. And I'm telling you, the chat room today, there's always something that sprouts out, and we've discussed some of the SEC with the 3 losses to the group of 5, and then last night, the Mississippi State performance or lack of one against Texas Tech, getting hammered by Sonny Cumbie and company, and there's a back and forth going on about the SEC, and no one's trying to say that they don't have elite teams. They absolutely do, and we're going to maybe see one on Saturday, and we'll see one Friday, 2 of them in the semifinal games. But it's been kind of a surprise, the group of 5 losses, and if there's another one coming up, that means Cincinnati, and not a lot of people expect that. We're now joined. Do we have him? We're now joined by Hall of Famer Tom Flores, who's been on this show before, and he's grateful enough and honored to have him on yet again. Coach, thanks for your time. What are your thoughts and memories? What do you remember most about the great John Madden?
Well, I don't know. He was a very emotional guy on the field, off the field, and we spent many hours together, trying to coach the team the way that. Would like us to, and sometimes just the way that we thought were better because we thought our was better. But in any event, we were Raiders true and true, both of us. And he was, sometimes fun to be around, and sometimes, like the rest of us, not too much fun.
You knew him before TV, though. Was he always the same, Coach Madden and TV John Madden?
Well, yes and no. Sometimes he was when he needed to be, but not all the time like it was on TV. They would never dream that it would be as big as he became when he came. I think what started it all was all those young people, the ones that watch football or watching the games, and all of a sudden, pow, out of the wall comes this guy breaking through, trying to sell you a can of beer. And that was the first part of it. And then from that, fortunate for John and fortunate for the networks, he went on to the next level, telling you what you had just seen, telling you what you were maybe going to see. He was excellent at that because he was a teacher. That's what he had trained for, and that's what when he coached. That's what coaches do. We teach, and we show people how to do things. And we show players how to do things a certain way, and explain it to them. And that's what you do. That's what he was doing then, not just to the United States, but to the whole world.
Coach, I know that I saw you comment you made that you saw that documentary that came out on Christmas Day. I was just wondering what your thoughts were watching that and just seeing all that history, reflecting on it, and your opinion on, just kind of the odd timing of it all for that to drop, and then here, a couple days later, we're announcing the passing of John Madden.
Yeah, that was. I just saw that. I didn't see it on Christmas Day because we had a house full of people, but I saw it the day before yesterday. And then wouldn't you know it, the very next day, John passed. I was shocked. I didn't think he didn't look very good the last time I saw him. I hadn't seen him up close and personal because he didn't leave the house that much, and I didn't get up to the Bay Area that much. And he didn't go to the games that much anymore. So it was a sad thing to see, but we live long enough, we're going to see it happen.
Did you ever ride in his bus?
No, I was in it, but I never rode it.
It's like a condominium inside that bus. It was so nice.
Yeah, well, John he is pretty sharp. He had other people fix it up for him. And then while he was fixing it up, he just happened to put their logo on the side of the bus, and they fixed it up even more. And it was a nice bus. I mean, it was spacious because he was a big guy, but he spent a lot of hours on that bus and needed room. And he got the room. And then all of a sudden, in doing so, he started stopping along the way at the little tiny towns, and then all of a sudden he had more fans.
Earlier in the interview, you said you and he were both Raiders through and through. That's something that you kind of hear maybe a little bit more from that franchise than some others because of, the fact that Al Davis, kind of set what it meant to be a Raider. What is for those trying to kind of grasp it outside that Raiders fan base, what does that really mean that you guys personify that Raider feeling, or that you are Raiders through and through?
Well, we were with the team a long time. Look at what's changed in recent years because of the salary cap. John was with the team 10 years. I followed him with 9 years. That's 19 straight years, two guys coaching. Same philosophy, same ownership. And what did we do? We won a lot of games and championships. And so, it wasn't any mystery why we were winning. And in winning, we became very loyal to those that helped us win, and that was the Raiders. That was Al Davis and his ownership. And when you spend that kind of amount of time, you're gonna like a team. Those that didn't spend a lot of time weren't good enough, I guess, or didn't like the team, or the team didn't like them, and they went on their ways. But we managed to hold on, but there wasn't any free agency, so you had the same guys year in and year out, basically. And that all changed when we went to the salary cap. Now look at what's going on right now with this bizarre year of the COVID. They have a new squad every week.
Coach, when people think of John Madden, a lot of the younger generation will obviously think of the video game, and some will go to the announce booth. Obviously, we've talked with you a little bit about the deeper level to that. Just in terms of the game of football, for those that didn't know John Madden beyond the broadcast booth or the video game screen, what did they miss out on, and what was the, I guess, main takeaways they should know about John Madden and the game of football, his impact?
Well, but he had a lot of respect for the game. He loved what he did. He had respect for the fans, and he enjoyed doing what he was doing, sharing that with the people, and he did it well.
Tom,
and you got to say, John, you did it well. Nice going.
Yeah, you mentioned the stability of the Raiders, and one of your rivals, of course, the fierce rivalry with the Steelers. They've had their stability with Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, and now Mike Tomlin. Shouldn't more franchises look at that and realize all this constant change is not always the best change?
Yeah, you would think so. I would think so. I mean, sometimes give it a chance. If you believe what you're doing is the right thing, then give it a chance. You'll never know if you keep changing it week by week, and you'll just never know. It'll be too many doors opening, too many doors going out and coming back in.
Did Madden ever say boom when he was coaching, or is that a broadcast thing?
I don't remember him doing any of that. No, I don't remember doing them. Yeah.
Tom,
he might have done in the game by himself, but we didn't have time to go boom with him. And all that stuff.
You were a quarterbacks coach for a year with the Bills, and followed up, and again, thanks for your time today. Then you went to the Raiders under John Madden. What was he like as a head coach, and what was it like for you to be on his staff?
Well, he worked hard, very demanding. He was hired by as the youngest coach in professional football, and Al tutored him and expected him to withhold the Raider tradition and the Raider philosophies, and he did it well. He did it really well. As far as this is what we like to do, this is how we like to do it, and let's get it done.
Tom, thank you. Still proud of what you've been able to accomplish, the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Thank you for joining us whenever you have, because you've been on with us now 2 or 3 times in the last year. Thank you for your time and also honoring the great John Madden. Have a great week.
You bet. Anytime.
Tom Flores, Hall of Famer. A guy that sometimes when you think about coaches who've won multiple Super Bowls, at times he gets overlooked. You have Landry, and you have Noll, and you have Shula, and you have others. And then there's Tom Flores. You have Joe Gibbs, Jimmy Johnson, right? And Bill Parcells. Of course, Bill Belichick's got 20 of them. But Tom Flores won a couple of them. And I'm talking about with the 80 Raiders when they pulverized Philadelphia and then humiliated a great Washington team in 83, beat them up 38-9. The famous Marcus Allen run that was part of that blowout win in that Super Bowl of the 83 season.
Yeah, cool to get Tom Flores' thoughts, given that they were so closely attached at times and obviously are always going to be closely attached in terms of the history of the Raiders franchise. It's interesting to hear like the perspective that's not the Fox version that we all saw, and the guy who did say boom and had all these sound effects that he would say or phrases that he would say, and it's been cool to see this is like one of those passings where I've seen a couple of people try to make something out of the passing of John Madden to prove some other political point or some stupid, and they've gotten absolutely roasted from every direction, and that's been the most beautiful thing to see is that everybody, even though outside forces, inside forces, I feel like try to split us up as much as possible, as often as possible. The passing of John Madden, it feels like everybody kind of came together, and anybody who had a bad word to say just got immediately put in their place. And I love to see that because he clearly meant a lot to everybody who grew up watching football, grew up playing the game. it's a universal love that football fans have for John Madden.
You know what Major League Baseball has not had, which is I think why it's dipped a little bit, is a John Madden. They don't have somebody that loves the game as much as he did, or can, maybe not loves the game, but can verbalize it and make it interesting as much as he did in that era and do all the things he did. The video games for baseball were inconsistent. The one video game was Madden, and it was like the reason it was so good is because he made sure he made it good because it had his name on it. They have a lot of guys.
Has anyone ever approached that? Bob Uecker?
I was going to say Uecker, but
here's the thing. Bob Uecker, we all know him because we're in sports, but do people outside of that know him because of? No.
I know him because of Major League.
Yeah. But then that was 30 years ago, and now here he is. He's pretty much just the announcer for the
Brewers.
The Brewers. Had Bob Uecker maybe been that guy for baseball, maybe they could. The NBA is always going to be the NBA because they're a player-driven sport. They're not really like that. The NFL is driven by the Shield more than the players most of the time. But the guy who made the Shield more fun was John Madden.
Yeah, you're right. He was amazing. And more and more chat room stuff about him. And from JG, damn good point, Paul. The teams, Steven Snook, Ted Hendricks, Jack Tatum, John Matuzak, who's basically certifiably Gronk back in the 70s. And, of course, Kenny Stabler and Cliff Branch. And, my God, they had some amazing players.
Baseball would lose its mind if somebody got in the broadcast booth and tried to have any personality whatsoever.
Yeah.
I know that there's some that have a little bit, but, boom, or look at a crack at that, like getting excited about it. No, we can't have any excitement about this. We can only do that in October when, it's the World Series Game 7, and now we're allowed to have some fun.
And who's the World Series? Like, Joe Buck is fine. I don't get the hate on Joe Buck as a play-by-play announcer.
It's a polarizing figure.
But I think it's like the Nickelback thing, where even if you think he sucks at this point, you just have to say that he does.
Yeah, but and this is no knock on John Smoltz. He knows the game very well. But the back-to-back guys who were his World Series, cohorts are Tim McCarver, who was abjectly terrible, and John Smoltz, who's just kind of a guy.
You didn't like McCarver?
I could not stand Tim McCarver. Tim McCarver's problem was he knew the game, obviously, and that was that. But he was also in the game too long, so sometimes you'd watch a game and you'd be like, oh, he's friends with the pitching coach for the Orioles.
No, they're maybe a little bit too close to who he's covering. I do think
But you never got that. Madden loved Favre. We all know that. But you never felt like he was just like a homer about it necessarily, because every player felt like they were the same as Favre felt like he was treated by John Madden. The outpouring of just current players, former players, etc. He had a profound impact. He really did.
You mentioned that he made Nate Newton, who was an all-pro, Pro Bowl offensive lineman, who's been a part of our show on occasion as well, with the sweat lines on his butt and, of course, the steam coming off the top of his head. But I actually like McCarver, but he got a little bit too full of McCarver. I love John Smoltz. I like the voice, the tone, how smooth he is, and how he calls a game. But there's not a Madden in baseball.
Okay,
right.
20 years from now, are they going to let Bryce Harper call games? Okay, look, right now, here's what they should do. And that's probably his accent that's keeping him from doing it, but they should let Big Papi do the broadcast because he can do that. Because you watch Big Papi, and no matter who's playing, he's like...
No, he loves the game, which is what we just heard Tom Flores talk about with John Madden. Carlos Silva on Texas Tech's win last night against Mississippi State as they go forward as well and what it means. And again, sometimes bowl wins can launch you into a hell of an offseason. Sometimes it's just a mirage. There's really no, science to that. Who knows? But it was a very impressive win, and they looked focused, locked and loaded, and beat Mississippi State up. Also at 5 o'clock, George Teague played at Alabama, played with the Cowboys and Packers, and he's the one that stripped Lamar Harris of a pass after he had caught it, racing down the sidelines for what was going to be an 89-yard touchdown, stripped it out of his arms, ran it back the other direction, also had a pick six and a Sugar Bowl victory against Miami in the 93 Sugar Bowl. Much more to come. Got an old-timer tomorrow who played in the 1961 Sugar Bowl, joins us tomorrow. Former Texas linebacker Dusty Renfro. Played in the Sugar Bowl, joins us in the 90s tomorrow, among some others. And, of course, the coverage of Baylor and Ole Miss and what we have with media sessions. Sikkim 365 Radio. Discover Woodway. They've got a couple of events coming up. I'm talking about, this is in February. Plenty of time for you to kind of write this down in your calendar. How about on February 5th, a father-daughter dance? They're going to host that. It's a featured event. Go to discoverwoodway.com for more information on that. February the 5th, a father-daughter dance that they're going to put on. And again, Woodway with the Arboretum, with all of the venues they have. They're also about to open up a brand new dog park. Woofway is what they're going to call that. That's on February 12th, a couple of days before Valentine's. And then later on this year in May, there's the mother-daughter brunch as well. All of that being put on by Discover Woodway, by the city of Woodway, and they have 7 hotels. If you're coming to Waco to spend time, whether it's at the Silos or whether it's at Balcones or whether it's for a Baylor event or just to come into town to visit, 7 hotels available in the Woodway area. It's discoverwoodway.com.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Payments for qualified buyers at 2.9% with $5,000 down, cash or trade. TTL Extra, see dealer for details.
Get the quality pre-owned car you need now at a price you can afford at Richard Car. Find great deals like a 7-passenger 2016 GMC Acadia for $225 a month, a 2019 Ford F-150 for $438 a month. Plus, get top dollar for your trade now. Richard Car. Pre-owned vehicles go through a 172-point inspection, and our aggressive lenders say yes when others say no. Find your next car or truck at Richard Car today.
At Richard Car, we give you more. It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from Select, Choice, or Prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strip, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Arturo Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
You know what would make this moment better? pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfection pizza. Like loads of premium toppings like crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, and fresh sliced veggies pizza. That's Marco's Pizza. Visit marcos.com and make any moment better. And with 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
We are back in New Orleans. Be here for the next 4 days, covering the Sugar Bowl, Ole Miss and Baylor, Saturday night, 7:45 Central. Just after that, kickoff. There's a game that just went final, and I mean it was a blowout. Maryland crushed Virginia Tech 54-10 in that game, the Pinstripe Bowl.
Yeah, I just saw, I think it was like Mandel or somebody, the ACC has apparently lost 17 straight bowl games. 17 straight bowl games.
Things are going well.
Does that include, I guess, because...
Well, Clemson lost last year.
Yeah, I guess, if you put them all, clump them all together. That's how do you...
Or excuse me, 13 consecutive bowl games. 13. It's not 17, it's 13.
I would say 8 to 10 would be more than I could imagine, but 13.
13 consecutive after you said 17. It's like,
Yeah.
reports are somebody was shot twice. No, they were only shot once.
Yeah, the
They're
second bullet just nudged them a little bit. But last night, Texas Tech, you got one other note on that?
No, I was going to say, like the Virginia Tech thing, it's like they had issues, but again, going back to earlier, like who cares? I mean, Maryland's not going to celebrate it any less. They kicked their ass, and, I'm sure we'll be celebrating in grand style as a result of that, no matter what Virginia Tech had or didn't have available.
SMU, Virginia, we're supposed to play. We know that's been canceled at Fenway Park. And then Clemson, Iowa State on the clock now, and then Oregon, Oklahoma play a little bit later on. Well, last night, I tell you what, I thought Mississippi State would probably beat Texas Tech, and I thought it would be like 30-27. I don't know, but I was wrong, dead wrong. Mississippi State got bludgeoned by Texas Tech, Sonny Cumbie and company, and we're now joined by Carlos Silva. Last time we spoke with him, it was the hiring of Joey McGuire as the head football coach at Tech, what seems like 6 months ago, and it nearly was. Carlos, hey, thanks for your time. What did last night mean as Texas Tech moves forward, in your opinion?
I mean, certainly you can look at the general perspective and give them positive momentum with Joey McGuire now taking the helm, as you mentioned. But I think just from a deeper peeling the onion type standpoint, beating your former coach that's just been bludgeoning you, via the media because of his firing and being owed money. And for many fans, I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen it on Twitter, but a lot of them have said, like, this curse is broken. Like, it's this Mike Leach thing of this guy was the last one to lead us to a winning season and kind of all these other things. And now all of a sudden, Sonny Cumbie, the Texas Tech alum, comes back, even though he had another job with Louisiana Tech, along with some other assistants as well, like Keith Patterson, Steve Farmer, Luke Wells, and some of these other guys. And Derek Jones as well, defensive back coach, and they come back and they get these guys ready to play and showed that sometimes the interim football coach role can be a little bit more than just a guy that's kind of holding things and making it warm for the next guy involved. He certainly had some pride, and as you guys just mentioned, I mean, they were able to show that they were ready to play and that they wanted to be in that bowl, and they finally got that big bowl victory that Texas Tech has been looking for the first time since 2013.
What was Joey McGuire's role in this bowl preparation, and how much of his fingerprints are on that win, even though Sonny Cumbie obviously ran the show?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, when you look at least from what Joey had mentioned when we talked to him when he was hired and kind of weeks leading up, he said he's just going to watch practice, see how the guys performed in practice and kind of watch them in the game, which certainly a lot of those guys had some really good highlight tapes, and then not only that, but really good resumes based off of last night's performance. So he has to be very excited about some of the guys he's going to inherit. And in terms of the bowl prep, from what I've understood, he said he wanted to be hands-off. He wanted to let Sonny kind of do his own thing, which he certainly did, and everything worked out pretty well, as you guys kind of saw.
Yeah, it definitely did. Carlos, I mean, how surprised were you by that result? I mean, to be as lopsided as it was, many people probably picked Mississippi State. Both teams were pretty even. Now definitely are even record-wise. But, Donovan Smith had a nice game. I mean, what was just kind of your surprise level, I guess, if any?
Well, I think even the people in Vegas were surprised. They had Mississippi State 9.5-point favorite, so certainly it's an upset if you want to use that term as well for Texas Tech. But then when you look at all the guys that were out for Mississippi State, yes, you can say whatever you want about that, but Texas Tech certainly put it to them in that first drive where they ran the football. If I'm not mistaken, it was about an 80 to 90-yard drive, and you just run it instead of passing it because, as you guys well know, when you think of Texas Tech, you don't necessarily think of running, but you get all those guys running the football and running very well, and they just established the tempo, and I think that was set by Sonny Cumbie, who you could tell wanted to punch Mississippi State in the mouth. And at the end of it, I don't know if you guys are watching the post-game deal, but he's like, well, looks like the Red Raider was able to beat the Pirate, which is a little bit of a play to Mike Leach saying about the Pirate beating the Soldier when they beat Texas A&M. So I think it was a little personal, I would say, for Sonny, just in terms of obviously the former player that was picked by Mike Leach, the walk-on, earned his quarterback spot, and now I think it's fair to say he kind of earned his spot in the Lubbock lore of legends, and not only that, but then he kind of beat the master, if you will. Student beats the master.
His emotions, and I think I've watched Sonny Cumbie when he's been a coordinator, when he's been elsewhere, and I know he played at Texas Tech as well, but his emotions last night was a man possessed. Seemed like that game, that game, I think, meant as much to him as perhaps anybody on earth, it seemed like to me.
Well, and I mean, you can even make the argument. I know he's going to go to Ruston, Louisiana, and coach the Louisiana Tech Bulldogs, but I think he's the way that he turned around this Texas Tech football program, because as you guys well know, when the interim football coach label is put on you, that's essentially kind of, okay, keep this warm and make sure that nothing really goes crazy. And that necessarily did not happen with Sonny Cumbie. He came back. Now, maybe a little bit was because of his love for Texas Tech, being an alum and being as part of the program. But when you look at the fact that every assistant coach minus one, Mark Commerdahl, who was at TCU, and that's just due to the fact that Kirby Hocutt had mentioned that it was just one of those deals where you just didn't want another Big 12 rival assistant on your staff. But every other assistant coach, GA, came back to, just have this one objective, and that's to win this bowl game for these seniors, 12 of them that came back because of the COVID year. And some guys have just decided that we want to change the culture here. And it's just one of those, I don't want to say it's written for Hollywood moments, but it's just one of those deals where a good deed is given a plentiful and fruitful reward. And you saw that with Sonny Cumbie with his emotion, and not only that, but then just the players who, I know Sonny mentioned it after the in the post-game presser yesterday, was he had asked when he first started, he asked his team, anyone that has won a bowl game, please stand up. And he said no one had stood up. And now his goal was to make sure that every one of those players stood up afterward. And certainly they can now after they won yesterday against the Bulldogs.
Carlos, if you're a Louisiana Tech fan, I would assume that you felt good about Sonny Cumbie anyway because the Louisiana Tech told you to feel good about him. But last night probably doubled that enthusiasm because of the way he did approach that game. It didn't look to me at all. You mentioned it, but the interim coach, that he was warming the seat and getting ready to leave and go to another state.
Well, not only that, but then you have to imagine that he's showing a little bit of what he wants to bring to Louisiana Tech. And I mean, he even kind of joked that he's going to have to figure out a new thing, because pump jack mentality. Yeah, there's a couple of pump jacks in Louisiana, but he wants to try and find another identity when he does get to Louisiana. But the fact that he was able to come up with that pump jack mentality, all the guys bought in, and he was just able to be a leader of men, as a couple of players mentioned to me before the bowl game. I think that bodes well for him going to Louisiana Tech, because if you're a coach, you either want to be a good motivator, leader of men, a good X's and O's guy, and certainly Sonny Cumbie kind of checked all those boxes yesterday after what you saw.
Is the pump jack mentality going to stay around in a Joey Maguire way? Because, man, I'm seeing a lot of pump jack on my timeline from Lubbock over the last few weeks, Carlos.
I would imagine so. And I mean, Sonny even kind of, when we asked him about it, he said he'd be very proud of it because it's something that he can say is a legacy that he left. And certainly it's something that was a identity of this team, is the fact that they all came to work, no matter all the distractions, the head coach getting fired, the head coach getting hired, injuries, whatever else you want to add to it. No matter what happened, they all still came to work. They all still bought into this idea of we need to win a 6 game. And they finally got that with that big, huge 62-yard field goal against Iowa State. And then after that, yeah, they had a little bit of adversity, played Baylor to the bone, essentially, almost tied the game. Jonathan Garibay missed his first field goal of the year. He certainly was bummed about it, but he knew they were going to bounce back, and certainly they did. Got to a bowl game, won their 7th game, and again, winning record, bowl game first time since 2013 and 15, so respectively. And it's just one of those deals where it's just, like I said, I know it's kind of cliche, but I mean, it's one of those feel-good stories now that you can kind of look back at. As Sonny had mentioned post-game last night, and just say, well, we can look back and know that we are all kind of linked together because of this crazy season.
Yeah, because, I mean, they did beat Iowa State with that 114-yard field goal or whatever it was.
Yep.
It looked like a Tiger Woods 3-iron, the way he hit that as well. And then, of course, they did take Baylor to the brink. And that thing could have gotten away from them. And the fact they got to a bowl game and they finished, to me, that's crazy. Stand up and who's won a bowl game and nobody did. That's very telling. So I know they were able to piece together, and maybe even more than that, a signing day class back in December. The transfer portal has helped them as well. Joey McGuire's brought some guys along that he knows. Is the optimism there higher than it's been since when?
Oh, man, that's a really good question. I would say probably when Cliff was hired. I mean, you look at just the excitement of, okay, this is a guy that we all like. This is pump jack mentality. There's a guy with a lot of enthusiasm, a guy that's now more of a CEO type of coach. He's more of a relationship builder because, again, this is kind of the new era of football, at least from what I've seen. You either get an X's and O's guy, you try and get a motivator, you try to get a relationships guy that can get you recruiting, which to kind of answer your question maybe a couple minutes ago, but Joey McGuire essentially focused on recruiting this whole time. So he had a huge advantage compared to some other coaches that when you're hired, you know, that late in the deal, you're kind of focused on recruiting and you're still trying to get your team ready to play a game. No, Sonny did all of that. And I think that's something that may get lost in all of this, but I know the Texas Tech fans kind of realize what a decision was made by Sonny to come back and do this for their football team, because again, and I don't want to demean the point, but this may be a program-changing win. And now that Joey McGuire's here, you essentially have a clean slate because you beat Mike Leach, a coach that everyone kept talking about. Well, hey, he was there the last time we won, had a lot of winning seasons, a bowl win, and then all of a sudden you take him on, and you know the student beats the master. And not only that, but he beat him pretty bad.
Hey,
I got a question. Carlos, in terms of, you know, obviously got the first signing day wrapped up and I guess felt pretty good. I know that a lot of attention's actually on 2023 already because of the fast start there. The staff has been hired. Like what is like on the to-do list, so to speak, for Joey McGuire now coming up? Now that they've got this era officially over and Sonny's going to go do his thing elsewhere, where does McGuire start now in terms of putting crossing T's and dotting I's this spring?
Well, I think the biggest thing is you're going to see who comes back. I know the first thing he said is he's going to have to re-recruit some of the guys that, yes, I know I mentioned they were all bought in for this one objective for a bowl game, but now you won your bowl game. The objective is done. And, of course, you guys know about the transfer portal. That changes things. So are you going to have some guys that come back? Some of the guys that could be eligible, Marquise Waters, who applied for a medical hardship waiver. He was a potential starter in your secondary that obviously did not play after a season-ending injury. Sean Merriweather's another guy. Adrian Fry, who made an interception last night. Jonathan Garibay, who, as you guys know, made that crucial kick, and kind of just all those guys that could come back. So it's just one of those things that you have to see, okay, one, who's coming back, and potentially maybe Donovan Smith isn't the starting quarterback because Tyler Shuck wasn't cleared because of the collarbone issue that he had. So you have a potential quarterback competition. I mean, there's a lot of things to kind of figure out, and I think the one thing that Joey's kind of looking at least from a transfer portal perspective, is can you get better on the offensive and the defensive line, because those are two places he struggled. Everywhere else, I think they were fine. In terms of playmakers, yeah, you may need to add a couple wide receivers because you can never have too many with the Zach Kittley type offense that's about to start. I think that's the next thing, is you have to establish what Zach Kittley wants to do. You have to be a little bit more balanced now. The running back room seems okay, but then again, this could all change if a guy decides to transfer. So I think that's the biggest thing, is can he keep all the guys that he feels made them super successful last night, and then from there you adjust.
Carlos Silva just now being able to kind of make up for lost time of sleep during that Joey McGuire, that coaching change. And hey, Carlos, it's been great to have you on during that time and elsewhere, and also for this week as well. Get some rest, get some decompression. I know basketball's already started, and appreciate your time. Enjoy the rest of the week.
Anytime. Same to you all, and Happy New Year.
You too. Carlos Silva, Lubbock Avalanche Journal, with us on Texas Tech win and moving forward 7-6. And you got that Baron Morton, the quarterback, who's coming in, a kid from Eastland. He's there. And so you got he and Smith, Donovan Smith, got kind of – that's a great quarterback battle right there. And Smith got a leg up because of what he did the last few games.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably all cleared up, though, going to spring ball, because now it's a new head coach. So I think Smith's got a little bit more experience. But, yeah, I mean, that'll be a good little battle. And, of course, the transfer portal can change things overnight for anybody. So, yeah, I mean, there could be a guy we're not even talking about that is getting ace up the sleeve or something at some point. But they seem to be in good shape. That was a really nice win. The Leach factor, I mean, obviously that was probably bigger than anything, I think, as far as just, taking down your old demons in a way, and being able to do it that convincingly and leave him kind of flummoxed at the end of it. I'm sure that was a tough pill to swallow for Mike Leach.
No question. And someone on the chat room said that won't be ended. That doesn't end the jinx until they pay him the money. But that was an ass-kicking last night. Okay, when we come back, in fact, Avery Bowerman just dropped through part of what she set us up here at the Marriott, the Media Hotel. When we come back, George Teague. What a game in the 93 Sugar Bowl when Alabama beat Miami, beat them badly, and Teague had a couple of huge plays in that game. And his thoughts about Baylor and Ole Miss, his thoughts about Baylor's running game against Mississippi and their 3-3-5 defense, all of that and more. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports live from New Orleans.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street in Waco. Look, it's New Year's coming up, and look, you're going to New Year's party. You want to bring something. You want to shake things up wherever it is. Whether you need to get champagne, whether you need to get some great high-end bourbons, whether you need to get great craft beer, whatever it is. At Riverbend Liquor and Wine, they will take care of you there. They've got great customer service, and I cannot think of a better place to go to stock for your New Year's Eve celebrations than Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street in Waco. Great, speedy drive-through window and customer service that is second to none. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
American Bank has been serving Waco since 1952, and we're just getting started. Hi, I'm President and CEO Dana Hassel. Over the past few years, we've been busy investing in new technology to give you the best banking experience possible. We've also expanded our downtown branch and built 2 state-of-the-art buildings at our Woodway and Bellmead locations. With bright open lobbies plus fast, personal, interactive teller machines, everyone in Waco is now just minutes away from face-to-face banking. Visit us today and see how we're invested in serving you at American Bank. Member FDIC.
Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Live from the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans, this is Sikkim 365 Radio.
Sanders throws too high and intercepted. And being run back by J.T. Woods inside the 10 and out of bounds. They'll mark him right near the 10-yard line.
Our Sugar Bowl coverage is brought to you by Ideal MRI, Edward Jones Investments agents Ben Erlinson, Tom Albers, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, The Willis Law Firm, American Bank, Pioneer Steel and Pipe, Genco Federal Credit Union, Camille Johnson Realtors, Automatic Chef Canteen, BetUS.com, Coach's XXX Smoke Barbecue, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, Allen Samuels Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Just had a chance to meet a couple more staff here at the Marriott in New Orleans, where we're broadcasting from. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Josh and Charlie, great to see them as they're setting up the hospitality room, which, of course, Jack Armstrong and, well, we will. We've taken advantage of some of the amenities here. We appreciate that. We're now joined by George Teague. We're here for the Sugar Bowl. Baylor and Ole Miss Saturday night here in New Orleans. George Teague, you played in a lot of great games. Is that game with Miami, is that your all-time favorite?
Yeah, I would say it ranks very, very high up there. Anytime you can win a national championship, and be at that time the only game on TV. You know, I got some very good memories of being in the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans.
George, the play that you made in the Sugar Bowl was kind of, and it's weird to say now because Alabama is the juggernaut of all juggernauts, but Miami kind of overlooked you guys a little bit, and your play was kind of the microcosm of that, in that they were, hey, look, we're about to coast in and score a touchdown, and then, oh, wait, here comes George Teague.
Yes, that game meant a lot to me personally, also, because it did help me to increase draft stock and things of that nature. But playing for a national championship was, huge. I don't think you can overlook, once you start getting to this point where you're playing for the Sugar Bowl, the Fiesta Bowls, the Rose Bowls, those games are all big, really, really big for universities and for the schools, but for the players too. It can be a catalyst, perhaps, for some guys that are looking to, do a little bit better for draft stock and things of that nature.
George, what's it like to just see Alabama be the juggernaut that they are right now? I mean, we're going on how long has Saban been there at this point? Like
15 years and they've like 15, championship seasons practically. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's like he's the greatest of all time, in my opinion, in college football. But what's it like as an alum? And I know Alabama had a proud history before him, but the tear they're on is just incredible.
Yeah, he's done an excellent job, and most people forget because it has been a little bit, but there was a slump there where Alabama wasn't that great, for a while. We went through a few coaches and was just trying to get on track, and we were, average. And so for Coach Saban to come in and really change the mindset and get the right staff in and the type of athlete, and getting the athletic director, Greg Byrne, in there as well, to have a vision just to really drive the, athletics to a new level has been great. So I'm giddy every week. I'm happy, just to be able to boast and brag. Not that I like to do that often or whatnot, but when your team, when your school is being well like this, and I know there's a lot of people that's done that. It's like being the Patriots or something. You either love them or you hate them, kind of thing. And I'm on the love side, and I'm glad that we're doing very, very well. Looking forward to the game.
That play you made on Lamar Harris, it would have been an 89-yard touchdown. Not only do you catch him, but you strip him. And then you had the play in the NFL where you hammered T.O. at the 50. Which one is more memorable that you've been told about?
I think they go right down the middle, actually, Smoak. Being here in the Dallas area, I hear a lot of talk about the T.O. deal and the incident. If I go back a little bit east, head over to Alabama, where I'm around a lot of big fans, they're only talking about the other play. So both cases end up showing up on social media quite a bit, one way or the other. So I kind of relive both of them, seems like daily. So I got to give them 50-50 on, for me personally, and they didn't necessarily ask me what does that feel like. I would have to go with the game, obviously, of playing in the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans, just because that play had a significant impact on the game. Mm-hmm. Where hitting T.O. was really frustration and anger, and we were getting our butt handed to us. So.
What did that mean for you guys to do that for Gene Stallings, who, I don't even know this statistic, but he's the only coach who's ever been fired at a major D1 program that's gone on to win a national championship at another, and you got to do that for him?
Yeah, Coach Stallings was he's still like a hero to me. He when he came in, after Bill Curry, and Bill Curry was great too. He's the guy that recruited me to come in there. But when Coach Stallings came in, he did a whole lot more for us. I think he really drove the team together when you're really trying to build, kind of like what Saban is doing with these guys, getting them believing in each other, making it really a family atmosphere, making sure you're doing right in class, make sure you're doing right with your girlfriend or your mother or, your families, and pulled us together. So playing for him and believing in him was outstanding. And that's why, literally it took him 3 years once he got there to get us to the national championship. It was a pretty fast turnaround. We owe it all to him, man, his foresight of how good we could be.
You're a part of all this success and what you've been able to do. I didn't realize this until I don't know why I've read up on you so many times and get to know you as a friend as well. But you're a military brat. Yep. What I loved it. I love being a military brat. Moved all over the world being a military brat. What was that like for you? And a lot of times, you have to move about the time you get traction somewhere. You went from Kansas and then you went to Alabama and et cetera. What was that like for you?
Yeah, no, I love that experience. I was born in Michigan, like you said, and went to Japan, and spent some time in Germany and in Florida. And, it helped mold me to who I am today. I got to see a lot of different places, countries, lifestyles, cultures, so we grew up different for that. I'm just thankful that my dad did allow me to graduate in the States. One of my brothers did not. And so when I got to Montgomery, Alabama, 10th grade year, 9th grade year, going into 10th grade, he got stationed again over in Turkey. But he allowed me and my mom, to stay back so I could graduate stateside, which, lo and behold, that kind of led to different things because it probably wouldn't have been the same for me athletically. Playing football in Turkey might have been a little bit different.
I played high school football in Japan. Where were you in Japan? Were you real young when you were in Japan?
Man, I was super young. I wasn't playing no football. I'm not even sure I was thinking about football at that point.
Okay.
I was a year old.
Okay.
But I was in Germany 3rd through 6th grade. Man, I just had, I want to say to all your military listeners, we do appreciate all their service and things of that nature because it's really close to my heart, obviously, like yours. But it's just, what you learn, the disciplines, again, the people, the lifestyles, the things you're not exposed to, maybe, and the things that, you get to see when you're around planes. I love seeing the jets and the trucks and, all those kind of stuff. And I just kind of grew up loving that stuff. And I'm still the same way today. That's why I try to grab the flag, at the Cowboys game. That was all because of my roots and just having pride in our country. And wanted to do something special after 9/11.
What's the most crazy fan base you've been a part of? The Cowboys, Bama, and you mean you're a Packer too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those are three different fan bases that have different levels of kind of the same kind of passion.
It's easy for me to say the Green Bay Packers. Mm-hmm. Most people probably hate me for saying that. Cowboy people that are listening to you right now, but the Packers were just, ridiculous. The traditions that they have, and plus if you can still fill a stadium when it's 20 below and snowing and they don't have shirts on and they're juiced up, to come out there and watch their teams play. It takes a different type of person to be able to do that. Plus, they all have kind of ownership in the team, which is different as well. So my time up there was great, but the fan base is just very, very true. I'm not saying that other teams aren't, that we don't have those, but you didn't hear a whole lot of negativity when things necessarily weren't that good. They were always going to be there. They're always going to help you out around the community. Small town, 80,000 people in Green Bay, and there's a big old stadium sitting there that holds 100,000. So,
yeah,
kind of tells you, what it's like.
I have to ask, given the scenes that I've seen up there weather-wise, is that something that you just get used to, or are you so locked in on the game that you're just able to block it out?
No, you don't get used to it, and no, you can't block it out.
Just fight through it.
Neither one. Yeah, neither one of those. Especially when you come straight from Alabama into Green Bay. So, I didn't know much about Green Bay except for what I saw on TV watching the pros before I got drafted by them. And, people would always ask me, where do you want to go? And I would always say, well, the place I don't want to go is to Green Bay. And guess who called on that day?
Hey, that's why you guys are always so happy after a 3 and out.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody's happier after a 3 and out than the Green Bay defense.
Oh my God.
In December and January. Let's go get those coats on and get to sit in the heater.
You mentioned how your game against Miami helped launch you a little bit more as far as your draft stock. Then what are your thoughts now, George, that guys are bypassing college bowl games because they're trying to get ready for the draft? Is that when you said that, I wrote that down, wanted to make sure I asked you that.
No, I absolutely hate it. I don't like it for several reasons, and not necessarily because it does become personal in the other way that I don't like, right? So even if you think you're going to get drafted or you're set, you got your agent lined up or whatever it's going to be, We were always just kind of taught that it still was about your team, and finishing what was started, regardless of that. So, I look at these guys when you have, 4 or 5 guys opting out that might be really, really good players. They're probably all not first-round draft picks either, or they're worried about getting hurt or whatever it is. But then they're hurting their team because then the team doesn't look very good. They go out there and they get beat. Saw it happen with Auburn. They didn't have enough guys out there. And as much as I hate Auburn, it's sad to be able to see that, guys are just opting out for one more game, really. I think, if you're sure, there's always a risk. Could you get hurt? Could you do something? You're not going to get that much faster after a month if you're worried about going to go train and all this kind of stuff for the combine. I'm not buying into any of that. I think the guys should finish and go ahead and play, and do what you were brought there to do. And that was playing football games, get your education, and then if you got an opportunity to go to the league, get there in April.
George, I think we could probably count maybe more guys who got hurt training for the combine and not being able to practice with their teams until midway through training camp as we do guys who get hurt in bowl games, can't we?
Yeah, I would think so. Because the guys that are sitting out like this, I like to really see, and maybe there's some data out there for the people that say, hey, we're out, how they actually end up in the draft. And I know it seems like it's increasing the number of guys that are, and maybe that's just me being hypersensitive to it. It just seems like every time I hear it, it's just kind of like, oh, come on. You got guys from UTSA and other people are like, no, you need to be playing so that you can increase, so like for me, I was positioned to be a 3rd or 4th round draft pick before the bowl game. After the bowl game, I ended up getting drafted in the 1st round. So to me, that is something that I am obviously super glad that I did. You have an iconic play, you have an interception, or whatever it might be, right? You might be running touchdowns or making some pancake blocks or beating up on somebody, whatever it is. You need to take advantage of that opportunity, because what I know now about scouting is they're looking for opportunities like this to see how you respond in games like this. And they can't put that on your resume if you don't play in it. That's just my thoughts. You can tell I'm passionate about it. My bad.
No, it's good. We love it. I do remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm on your Twitter feed, there's a tweet from Shelley Phillips about teenagers. They were on their way to the beach, and then they were approaching the bridge, and they asked their mother, I think, who's John Lewis? Did you not post something up when you were entering Montgomery about the Pettus Bridge and history and that moment and how you can't drive across that bridge without understanding the history of this country? Does that get you every time?
It does, as a matter of fact, and it's right. I've been across the bridge a lot of times, and we were going back home here over Christmas break and driving. So we were driving through Selma to get to Montgomery, and as we were approaching, I was talking to my wife and I said, hey, look at it. It just, as I was making a turn, it was just like I could almost had this feeling like, Selma, the history, and this thing. And when we turned the corner, I was like, man, I gotta take a picture of this. And my wife was like, yeah, this is, you're probably right. And then we just led the conversation about it, and it's a very quick drive over it, but it's just remembering it, and it all of it ties into me about what you were saying earlier, military background, understanding other people's struggles, and different things. And that's what I was saying. Maybe things I didn't necessarily see because I wasn't raised in the lens of racism and things of that nature, particularly because of our military background. You were in the same barracks or whatever around all different kind of people. So it was not even an issue or a thought to me. And it really didn't become prevalent in my life until I moved to Alabama. That was the biggest time or struggle for me because there was racial tension, or lines or neighborhoods that I couldn't understand. It was my first time living off base,
Yep.
And so it was different. And that's when I first started having my own personal struggles with that. And why are we seeing this? What does this mean? Why can't I talk to him or her or whatever? It didn't make sense to me. So from that sense, when you talk about going through Selma and seeing that bridge, it's just we've come a long way. We still got a long way to go. I got that. But until you live it up close and personal, like being there in Alabama and actually being bused to a white school, it sounds like I'm old, right? But it was kind of different that I was bused out of my black neighborhood over to a white school, that you start to go, wow, this is 1989, and it's not that long ago. So when I'm driving across something like that, it was like, man, it's crazy. Just crazy to me.
George, you mentioned to me earlier today, I mentioned Baylor and Ole Miss, and you haven't watched much of them, but Mississippi runs what is, I think you mentioned a 3-3-5, and I think Durkin yesterday mentioned it could even be a 3-2-6 type of defense. And you know what Baylor does. They love to pound the rock with Jeff Grimes and what they have with that running back in Abram Smith. What is that? What is that matchup? Is that like you're just slobbering all over a buffet line if it all works out correctly?
Ooh, man, if the linemen know how to identify the mic correctly, Baylor will gash those guys on the run. And Ole Miss is kind of stubborn with that, even with what you just said, going to a 3-2-6, and we'll jump in that because it's going to bait Baylor to run the ball. But if they execute it well, there's going to be some huge plays. The 3-3, is a little bit harder because you don't the twist and the stunts. But I have seen some games and some little bit of film of the way Baylor slides their line and turns to set protections and things of that nature. And I feel like if they're ready for that Baylor should have a really good day running the ball, forcing them to put a 4-man front down, or at least walking some backers up or something, and then it's just going to open up the passing game off play action or something else.
George, it's been great. We had a comment on our chat room that said, Teague's transparency is a unicorn. Fantastic segment. That's from Gary, who also recognized you were talking about being a military brat as well. Thanks for your time, man. It's always great to hear from you.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it, man.
You too,
Talk
buddy.
to you guys soon.
That's George Teague and that strip of Lamar Harris, which was like it was
Thomas,
almost
Lamar Thomas.
Lamar Thomas. My jaw dropped. It was like, what? And then of course had a pick six, and they beat Miami badly. And then the moment when he hammered T.O. When T.O. tried to celebrate yet again.
I remember that play in the Sugar Bowl like it was yesterday, because you're kind of at that moment, it's kind of like, all right, here comes Miami doing what Miami does. And it was. I mean, there wasn't any more kind of, opposite attitudes towards the game than Dennis Erickson, who was high-flying and kind of cocky and all that, and then Gene Stallings, who was, not that at all. Well, we're going to do what we do on Alabama football. And that's Gene Stallings. Was very straightforward. And Dennis Erickson, while not maybe as bombastic as his predecessor, Jimmy Johnson, it's still Miami. You had to be, bombastic. You had to have that attitude, and he did. And that play was, Lamar Thomas is coasting on in the end zone, and here comes George Teague out of nowhere.
I did not realize in this until I almost called him the Sugar Bowl MVP. Derek Lassick actually won the MVP of that game.
Former Cowboy, right?
Yeah, a running back from Alabama. And it's hard to imagine someone beating out George Teague, who had a pick six and also the strip on the long throw that really kind of helped turn that thing around. And Teague's touchdown interception return was early third quarter, but they hammered Miami 34-13. How about this story here? SEC updates COVID isolation policy, and I'm okay with that. But by doing that, Bill O'Brien's able to fly now to Dallas and get ready for the prep for the game Friday in their game with Cincinnati.
Yeah, it's, worked out well for Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, that was out there yesterday. Both he and who's the other coach I'm not thinking
Doug Marrone.
of? Yeah, Doug Marrone. Both being able to rejoin Bama, and, that's it's amazing how quickly we can get things done when we want to,
Remember when Saban had COVID and he had to get in a jet and he flew like so?
Yeah.
Saban also willed it away, I think.
But, I mean, yeah, certainly people picked up on the timing of like, oh, the SEC changes their mind and all of a sudden Bama's got these guys available. And I don't know how much there really was to any Bama influence. I think it was probably just a general response, although it clearly didn't help some other teams that we've seen.
The thing is if you wanted it to be different, the CDC – put out their policy. So if you're anybody else, whether you agree with it or not, it's hard to tell people, well, if the CDC policy is this, then how can we say any different?
Yeah.
When you're the SEC and not a medical organization in charge of things such of that nature.
Yeah, but, they got it done and got it, made official and all of that. So that worked out well for Alabama, and I'm sure it'll work out well for some other schools as well. I think there was already discussion, though, on terms of, like, this is stupid. What are we doing here? The CDC, certainly makes it easier, but I wonder how many conversations there have been over the last couple of weeks with all the cancellations we've seen of, regardless of what the government is telling us or doctors or whatever, we've got these very healthy 20-year-old men who are fully capable of bouncing back in less than 2 weeks. And I think there's just some common sense maybe that's starting to come into play. And there's also a Delta Airlines CEO that wants flights to run. So that's really why we have the CDC ruling. But, that's beside the point.
JT in Pikes Peak. He loved our lanyards. We have our media credentials in a lanyard. I don't think we can. And the Super Bowl, you can't show the front. You're not allowed to.
Well, there's no barcode on this one.
Here's why. There's a barcode, and people are so good at now stealing things and cropping things and whatever. They can turn around and have their own credential. You can actually be told to leave if you are seen on camera with the lanyard of a Super Bowl credential on camera because they can get infiltrated. Ours is simple. It's got the media. We appreciate the Sugar Bowl, John Sudsbury. Here's a question, though, and I don't know the answer to this because I like both. From JT, what is better, Cajun food or Creole food?
Well, who do you like better, Jennifer or Craig?
I love both of them.
Jennifer.
That's what I said. Bubba Bear. All right, so we just
I don't even know the difference, to be honest with you. I don't know what the difference is between Cajun and Creole.
Cajun and Creole. If you are from the Louisiana area, or you don't have to live here, and we are in New Orleans, and believe me, we will start to test a lot of that. But which is better, Cajun food or Creole food? And if you want to help us out, because I don't know if I can clarify the differences between the two. And JT and Pikes Peak, I put that up. We'll let the chat room go crazy. By the way, Yak Attack. Another surprising part of that Miami and Alabama game, Gino Torretta had just won the Heisman a few weeks before and then couldn't get his team past midfield the entire first half. He threw 3 picks in that game. And Brian Etheridge, you are special. Biscuits and gravy, I just want to be special.
Yeah.
I Googled Creole versus Cajun cooking. This site, The Spruce Eats, is the top result. It says, it is said that a Creole feeds 1 family with 3 chickens and a Cajun feeds 3 families with 1 chicken. That's what came up when I Googled Creole versus Cajun cooking. So I need a little bit more than that. But I guess Cajun, Creole is mostly the tomato base.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So some shrimp etouffee, and tomato base to me is a little bit bitter. So that might be, I would then go with Cajun.
All I'll tell you, JT, is what people don't need to know who haven't been here is this is the best food city in America.
Yeah, for sure.
It is absolutely, and I'm not knocking Chicago, New York, other great food spots to go, but this is the best food place in America. The best part about New Orleans is if your restaurant sucks, it'll close in a week. So you don't have to there's no chance of you walking into a place and going, oh, this food is this hot garbage in a bag. It's not at all. You walk in and it's good because you cannot make it because the stakes are so high.
Yeah, Yeah, I think you're more likely to just stumble into a place that turns out to be really good versus stumbling into a place in another major city that could be just total whatever.
This is the major leagues. This isn't Durham. I mean, this is the big leagues. This is Yankee Stadium. This is Fenway Park right here. This is how
you didn't use Wrigley.
This is true.
It's got everything you'd ever want from great steakhouses, Emeralds. I know it's a name and all that brand or whatever, but it is his place. I plan on having dinner there at least one night, might even be tonight. And then there is the down-to-earth Cajun and Creole food that is from everything fried to everything whatever base you want.
And look, even if it's not like the best, and this is not a town that's known for fried chicken necessarily, but the best fried chicken on planet Earth is here. Willie Mae's Scotch House. I mean, so you name it, it's here. I mean, the best Super Bowl media party we've ever had, and there's not even been a second, was the one that was right down the street from where we are right now.
It was inside that big
Mardi Gras
warehouse,
just right down the street, straight down that to the left
you
here.
You walked in the door, and there were I don't say kiosk, because there was one section after another of nothing but people with food and restaurants, and it was just mind-boggling.
I'll tell you this: if you want to sample one hurricane, that'll really mess you up. But if you'd like to sample 22 really small hurricanes, that will make you almost take your shoes off in public, because that's what happened to me that night. Because you just walk down and they're like, they had all these little samples. So they said, here's our jambalaya, here's a little dessert, and then here's our little hurricane. It was about, like that. And so, eat, boom, boom, all right.
And you have to have something if you're going to drink all those hurricanes, because my God. 3-3 Clemson and Iowa State. They're early in the second quarter. Couple of field goals between the Tigers and Cyclones in that game. The Cheez-Its Bowl, where they pour Cheez-Its on the winning coach. Is the Mayo Bowl, was it canceled? Was it played? Have they done that yet?
Yeah, they played that one. They cannot. They decided not to do it because of the Mayo dumping, because of the cleanup. Like if it gets hot or something like that, then that field's going to stink forever.
Was it a game coming up after that?
I don't think they've done it yet.
They've done it yet?
That game is like tomorrow, maybe.
Okay. I was curious about that.
Did you see the quotes of each coach on getting dumped?
No.
Mac Brown, I think, said, "If we win a game, you can hit me in the face with an iron pan or something like that."
And I don't care. Yeah,
I don't care.
Yeah, but they said they're not going to do it because the cleanup is too hard.
Where's the game at?
That's weak.
Where's it at?
The Duke's Mayo Bowl is in Jacksonville, isn't it?
So are they worried about like the Jacksonville's the game, the Jaguars?
It's in South Carolina. I think it's in South Carolina.
Well, then why would they be worried about the field?
I don't know.
Yeah. That's one thing that Jennifer Smoak would honestly kill herself if she would, like right then and there, if she had ability to kill herself, if someone if they just took a finger of mayonnaise, much less dumped it on her. There's nothing that would get that off
Idaho Bowl
of her.
dumped French fries.
Yeah.
Well, that's easier.
Was
that the Wyoming game or whatever? Something
you got
like
a bird problem after that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Thanks to George T. Great stuff from Military Brat to the bridge in Montgomery, Alabama, and the significance of that. And how about what he said? And I agree with him on this. When you're a military kid and you live on base a lot, and there's a few times we lived off the base as well, you don't see racism. I'm not saying there's not any of it. I'm not trying to say that, but you really don't. You're not around where you see certain things. You get off the base and all of a sudden you realize, wow, things are different. I'm glad he mentioned that and what he dealt with himself personally. All right.
So the Mayo Bowl's in. It's at Panther Stadium, and it's tomorrow. And looks like the Mayo bath is still on for the coaches as of right now.
I hadn't heard anything.
Okay,
about
it's got to be Miracle Whip, right? It can't be Hellman's.
Duke's Mayo.
It's Duke's Mayo.
Duke's Mayo. Okay, Okay.
The actual
I've never
sponsor.
had Duke's Mayo.
I have. It's actually better than all the other mayo.
Is it better than Miracle Whip?
Absolutely.
Because Hellman's has got kind of a to it. I don't know, a sourness to it.
It's actually like, it's hard to describe, but it's actually better.
Like Cool Whip?
Here's what I'll tell you.
It's not just
Duke's Mayo is fantastic. Since you're the only mayonnaise of the bunch that cares about college athletics, and this is the show that we do, Duke's Mayo.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Sponsor us.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate everyone who's been a part of this so far. We still have a half an hour to go, 20 minutes to go. Paul's top 5 as well. And again, thanks to a lot of you who are a part of the chat room. We were on and off, piecemealing a lot of different shows the last week, and it's nice to be back in a flow. I do know that 5 of us, I know Paul got in late last night with a flight. I got a feeling all 5 of us will sleep well tonight, not just because of what might happen with Bourbon Street with a couple of the youngins, but just because of the long day, the long drive. And we're here, we're excited, and we'll be here every day, and thanks to the Marriott, the Media Hotel in New Orleans. When we come back, let's check in on a couple of more story notes when it comes to sports, not just in college football, but also more on the chat room. Text line open, 254-339-1122. We have a couple of different Sugar Bowl MVP guests tomorrow on the show, along with more from Baylor and Ole Miss. And this is Sikkim 365 Radio. I received this text last week from Carl Campbell. He's a viewer and listener of the show. We've known Carl quite a bit. Speaking of somebody he served for our country, he was in Waco, and he was asking about the show and all that, and he was in Waco. He had just driven in to Waco from Austin with his wife, who was in town in Waco to get an MRI at Ideal MRI. He sent me this text. I said, oh, man, that's great. I said, please tell me how they took care of it, make sure it went well. I took my wife to Ideal MRI. Her insurance won't allow the MRI until she does months of physical therapy and medication. This is a beautiful place. They accepted us, and it's a perfect spot. Hope you guys have a great Christmas. That's from Carl Campbell at idealmri.com, and, of course, their location, the business, inside the Central Texas Marketplace in Waco, just off of I-35 on the southern part of Waco. Here's a place in Ideal MRI. His wife wanted an MRI. Doctors wouldn't let that happen. They were able to do it. And yes, they cleared all of whatever you needed when it comes to the protocol of making sure she could get an MRI. And that's customer service. I sent that to Dr. Rob Maxey. He was thrilled to see it. And I'm glad that they took care of Carl Campbell's wife and when she needed something to be found, what hurts or what is going on. So that's what they do. Ideal MRI also can save you a ton of money. Average MRI is $1,100. Theirs is $497 or less every single time. That's well less than $1,100 on average. $497 every single time and sometimes less. And they will help you with whatever insurance you need to file with that. It's simple. It's easy. There's not a long waiting list. You don't sit in a big room with one name after another for like an hour before your name is called. It's idealmri.com.
The 2021 Ram brand just received first place in the prestigious J.D. Power's Initial Quality. The Dodge brand finished second to Ram, and the 2021 Jeep Gladiator is rated first among all mid-sized trucks. The Big Finish sales event, only at Allen Samuels, 201 West Loop 340 in Waco.
Come by, let's be friends.
Texas board-certified personal injury trial lawyer and Baylor alum David Willis and Baylor alum Parker Willis are ready to help if you or a loved one has been wrongfully injured in an auto accident, SUV rollover, industrial accident, 18-wheeler crash, or were seriously injured by a defective product or recall drug. Call them for a confidential and free case consultation at 1-800-GOT-HURT or visit them at texastriallawyer.com. Principal office located in Houston, Texas.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
When it comes to me and my money, I know the way it should be. I need a partner I can count on. That's Genco and me.
Genco has extended their offer till the end of the year. Refinance your vehicle today at Genco with rates as low as 1.69% for 48 months. And have 90 days of no payments. Refinancing can lower your payment, so you pay less for your car. Apply online and get an additional 0.1% off our already low rate. You can't pass on rates this low and make no payments for 90 days. For more information, go to GencoFCU.org.
Annual percentage rate subject to change without notice, subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. NCUA, Equal Housing Lender.
money, my future, my credit union.
The year is wrapping up, sports bettors, but BetUS still has your NBA, NHL, college football bowls, UFC, PGA, and of course NFL betting lines up for their 27th year. Live betting on all of it. Log in to BetUS.com today. Use our promo codes SICK'em125 for a 125% bonus on cash, or SICK'em200 if you use crypto. So use the 3-decade leader, BetUS.com. Use promo code SICK'em125 and SICK'em200.
Masters of barbecue, kings of crazy good food, and the perfect sanctuary for sports, beer, and barbecue is Coach's XXX Smoak on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco, and also on Highway 84 in McGregor. A menu filled with choices like a great offensive playbook, including 3 meat combos with sides, burgers, and sandwiches, wings, loaded giant spuds, and salads, crazy wings, chicken poppers, big boy fries, and smoking quesadillas, just some of their amazing appetizers. There's Coach Big Ol' Draft Beer, or order Zach's Spicy Bloody Mary, or Coach's margaritas and mimosas while watching your favorite team play. Great pecan smoked barbecue, fun atmosphere with attention to detail, including a catering menu, and we'll quote your price to fit your budget. Coach's XXX Smoak on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco, and walking distance to the great places to shop and enjoy, and also the original location on Highway 84 in McGregor. Great food, great price, great fun. Eat where the locals eat.
Welcome back to Sick'em 365 Radio.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments, with financial advisor Brad Wilson. Investing is time and experience back to you and your money during today's changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Both teams have arrived in New Orleans. Baylor earlier today, right before we started the show. Tomorrow, and everything's gone virtual, and it kind of sucks, to be honest with you, because it was right below us where a lot of these media sessions were, or at practice. I remember driving over to that hockey or whatever it was arena, indoor facility, the Saints facility, when Matt Rule and his team was practicing, and we had a chance to visit with him for just a second. And then the coordinators down below on the first floor, we're on the second floor of the Marriott. Tomorrow, it's defensive coordinators and 5 players. So Ron Roberts will be available for Baylor. Jeff Lebby, the former Baylor assistant coach, will be available along with players for Ole Miss. That will be tomorrow. It was going to be today. They moved it back since the teams were arriving today.
Yeah, the whole virtual thing sucks. I mean, it does. It's easier, honestly. You don't have to get up and go to a ballroom somewhere to go sit and listen. But, yeah, it does kind of suck to not have that interaction. We're definitely not going to have, like a post-game locker room. I mean, that's definitely not happening. So, yeah, it's a bummer to get the entire way through with basically no issue whatsoever. No issue at all during the regular season, in terms of Baylor at least, and then you get to all the way to this point, and it's like we're just restarting everything all over again. It's incredibly frustrating, but hey, you win the Sugar Bowl. Whoever does that, they'll be going home happy. That's why they're here, is to finish out their season on a high note, and this would be a major, major victory for Baylor. To win a Sugar Bowl title, to beat a team the quality of Ole Miss. I don't know if Ole Miss views it the same way, honestly, but winning the Sugar Bowl would be a big deal, I know, for them and for Lane Kiffin and for Jeff Lebby. Obviously, he wants to win over Baylor. I don't think there's any doubt about that. So, yeah, it's got the makings of being a great game. 2 really good teams. I just wish it was a little more opened up as far as, the access and what we're able to do. But understand it beats, the game getting canceled outright like we've seen across the country with multiple games now.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this to Smokey earlier. Phil Bennett said it yesterday. Jeff Lebby is definitely – he could have gone to Oklahoma already, and Lane Kiffin could have called it. I do think there's certainly some coaching for spite in this game. For him, because Lane Kiffin, and this is not a knock on Lebby. He certainly deserves what he's gotten and earned the job at Oklahoma and being one of the most sought-after offensive minds in the game. But Lane Kiffin wouldn't necessarily need him to call the offense in this game.
No.
Lane Kiffin's, also one of the better offensive minds in football. So if he has to call the plays for a game, even though he's not used to that this year, he'd be fine. This is This is personal to Jeff Lebby.
We saw what personal was last night for Texas Tech and Mike Leach and Mississippi State. That game, Mike Leach was able to say some things. It was Mike Leach. He was a little ha-ha, this and that. And some of the things he said were stinging towards Kent Hance and his thoughts about certain leadership or whatever. And I didn't realize it was inspiring Texas Tech, but it was, because they absolutely were out for blood in that game.
Well, if it's going to motivate anybody, it'll motivate Jeff Lebby and him alone, because nobody at Baylor cares. I mean, at this point, there's nobody around outside of Mack Rhodes, who had a brief dalliance with him, that 1 year that they were going through that interim stage. But besides that, there's, as far as on the surface, there's nobody that's connected to any of that. But yeah, I would imagine it's going to be quite personal, and whether it's a personal achievement of getting a win, or a really personal tough loss, which Baylor could very well hand them. It's going to be a great matchup of Kiffin and Lebby's offensive minds versus Ron Roberts and Dave Aranda's defensive minds. But running quarterbacks have given them trouble. Corral can certainly run around a bit. And he can sling it. He can sling it really, really well. So it's going to be a tough matchup, and I'm curious on Baylor's end too, which is Gary Bohannon playing for the first time in like 2 months of, what does the offense look like, and can he throw them to a win if Ole Miss is able to stop the run? So yeah, there's a lot to look forward to over the next couple of days. By the way, this is totally off topic, but the Alamo Bowl is about to start. Oklahoma's got the largest bowl patches I've ever seen. It's like takes up an entire shoulder, but I guess the Alamo Bowl's getting their money's worth for it. But yeah, just randomly saw a locker room shot, and the patches are gigantic on these jerseys.
It used to be that way in the Orange Bowl, if I remember.
Yeah. They're huge, but maybe it's always like that, and I'm just now noticing, but I'm noticing.
I'm wondering if the bowl committee's like, listen, we need one thing.
I'm telling you, these things are gigantic. It's like the entire shoulder Valero Alamo Bowl.
I can think of it, and probably just because they wear the white so often, Nebraska, but some of those old Orange Bowl patches back in the day that were the Nebraska uniform and then a gigantic orange on their shoulder.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll definitely know what bowl game Oklahoma's playing in based on these pictures. Every time they show them, even from the sky shot, we'll be able to read the patch on their shoulders. But that'll be an interesting game coming up. But yeah, Ole Miss and Baylor, I don't want to go through everything. Obviously, we got 2 more days to talk about it, but just storyline-wise, there's plenty to discuss.
Well, the Cheez-It Bowl, if you had lined the end zone with a bunch of Cheez-Its, nobody would have broken any crackers yet, because Iowa State and Clemson are both adverse to touchdowns, and that's kind of been an all-year thing.
A little field goal kicking contest.
Yeah.
Well, it is. It's 3-3 now with 8:25 left in the second quarter. And again, Clemson's defense has played for the most part pretty well. The problem is they can't score. And Iowa State has been a little bit of both, 7-5 and 9-3, as those two teams who had much larger, grander plans when the season began. And if you would have said Clemson's playing Iowa State in a bowl game in December, we would have thought maybe, I don't know. I'm not saying I ever thought Iowa State would be in the semifinals.
Playoff game.
I thought it would have been a New Year. I thought it might have been a New Year's Six game, though. At least something, kind of on the scale of this. But did you see the picture of Dabo in his all orange sweatsuit and Matt Campbell in his all blacks yesterday taking the picture? Now Dabo looked like a guy who is very accustomed to doing this, and Matt Campbell was like a 9-year-old, just like, I would just let me get out of this picture.
Well, the good news is that, it doesn't matter whether Iowa State wins this game. It's not about winning. It's not about winning. It's just about having fun and growing young men, and that's all that matters. So I don't even know why they're keeping score in this game. I bet if Matt Campbell had to say they wouldn't be. It'd just be 0-0 and both teams win.
I haven't seen Adam, who's as much of an Iowa State fan as you could have, but I wonder, and I know he loves Matt Campbell. He loves Iowa State. Mm-hmm. But I haven't seen him in forever, I have to ask him about that. So was it all about just growing up and being good young men?
Well, when you say, now that the conference title's out, well, that was not my goal.
Yeah,
well,
I know.
I'm just curious, what was your goal?
Growing
what was
young
it?
Men.
Yeah,
growing young men.
And it's one thing to say, you could have coaches who have philosophies about life and growing men. And Dave Aranda says things like that as well. And some coaches say it, some of them probably are just saying it. But
I mean, I'm just having fun, but the timing of that was so incredibly stupid. I don't care what anybody says. I don't dislike Matt Campbell in any way, but that was dumb. That was really dumb, in my opinion. Others can disagree. I bet they're mostly from Ames, but that's fine. Think he's a great coach. I think it'd be a bad loss in this bowl game, honestly, because Clemson, they're they're there for the taking. I mean, if you're going to beat Clemson, beat them this year. And if you're 7-5, you finish 7-6 with this team, dude. Spare me the good guy and all that. 7-6 with this team. Come on now, that would be
the deepest team that Iowa State's ever had in their history. And like, I get it. Matt Campbell's point was probably, look, I think that, building a man that comes before conference titles, but you also, I think, need to say that, it's disappointing that we're not at that point, but I'd never be disappointed in these guys if I know that this is the best that they can do, but it's not the best that they can do because this team is the best team and the most veteran team that Iowa State has ever had.
Yeah, and they just missed a field goal, so we're tied at 3 still. The field goal kicking contest has a miss now, and courtesy of Iowa State. But, I know what he was saying, and, I think everybody mostly did. It's just the way it came across is so incredibly dumb. But
do you know what the last time Iowa State won a conference title?
No. Not in the Big 12.
1911 and 1912.
Wow.
And they've had Earl Bruce. And
the Titanic hadn't even sunk yet.
They won a division title in 2004, but lost the tiebreaker to Colorado.
Archduke Ferdinand was living his life.
Hey, if you finish 8-5 and you got to win over Clemson, even if it's not the same old Clemson, that's
it. Oh yeah,
that's an okay for a down year. Quite frankly, that'd be a good year, and that'd be a great year for most Iowa State football teams in their entire history. So, you can't be too upset with that. But they've also got some good news. Guys like McDonald coming back next year. So, they're not going to be the exact same team, but they'll still be pretty good. And he made it through another coaching carousel without barely even being mentioned, it felt like. He was never like the guy, it appeared, although it could have been different behind the scenes. But let's go Big 12. Big 12's off to a nice start.
Yeah, good luck to them. And here's one thing Matt Campbell has done. Been to 5 consecutive bowl games. And Iowa State's history, which goes back into the early 1900s, they've been to 18. And he's been to 5 in a row. There was a time when when you talk about how bad Kansas State was or Northwestern was or Baylor was, they went 22 years without a bowl game from 1978 till 2000 when Dan McCarney went to 5 straight.
No, Campbell's done an amazing job there. And, you're just kind of waiting, though, for that to crack the glass.
Yeah.
And he thought they could do that last year in the Big 12 title game and came up just short. And then you really thought when with the team coming back, they would be in that mix. And, instead they're 7-5. But, hey, you win the game today, finish on a high note, 8-5 is respectable, and it would be a great year.
Finish in the top 25 possibly. All right, when we come back, Paul Catalina's top 5 highlighting the late, great John Madden. This is Sikkim 365 Radio.
Tons of college bowl games going on right now. The NFL playoffs are rapidly approaching just in a couple of weeks, and action on all of it at BetUS.com. Use our promo code SICKM125 and SICKM200 for 125% bonus on cash and a 200% bonus on crypto for just a $50 deposit. Boom. It was $100. Now they're go down to $50. So if you don't want to dip your toe in the water that much, $50 deposit at BetUS.com. Get you 125% bonus on cash or 200% on crypto if you use our promo code. So go to SICKM125, SICKM200. Those are the promo codes at BetUS.com, the 3-decade leader. That's BetUS.com.
The secret to living your best life is pizza, obviously. Golden crust made from scratch, 3 fresh signature cheeses, and the toppings, crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, bacon. That's called a dream team. Find everything you need to live your best life and more at Marco's Pizza. Owner Bob Mock has been delivering pizza since 2001 and is the proud owner of 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to be open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Texas board-certified personal injury trial lawyer and Baylor alum David Willis and Baylor alum Parker Willis are ready to help if you or a loved one has been wrongfully injured in an auto accident, SUV rollover, industrial accident, 18-wheeler crash, or were seriously injured by a defective product or recalled drug. Call them for a confidential and free case consultation at 1-800-GOT-HURT or visit them at texastriallawyer.com, principal office in Houston, Texas.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio with socially distanced seating for your enjoyment. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55, presented by Champion Salon and Barber. To book your appointment, go to championsalonandbarber.com.
Top 5 ways John Madden contributed to football. And there's a lot more, but these are the 5 that stand out to me the most. And the number 1 and the number 2 are pretty steadfast. The other 3 you can move around as you want. But number 5, his attention to the offensive and defensive lines as part of the broadcast. Not that other broadcasters hadn't done this before, but the way he highlighted it, I think for a generation of young football players like me, a kid who was destined for the offensive line, but nobody really wants to play that when you're little. You know, you want to be the running back or the quarterback or a wide receiver. You want to score touchdowns. The way that he made it seem like it was so important, which it is, and crucial to the game, made you want to do it and made you want to grasp it. So I think there's a ton of young offensive and defensive linemen out there, especially guys that were my age, that embrace that, because on Sunday when you watch John Madden doing a game, he was talking about Eric Williams as much as he was talking about Emmitt Smith in the same game.
He did. He did. He made it cool. He made it cool to be a big, fat, ugly guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he absolutely did. And I think it was awesome. Number 4, endorsements. I think before Madden, I mean, broadcasters had endorsements, but did anybody really think about them being like personalities? Was it as much personality driven for a guy who was, again, John Madden is not handsome or athletic. He was just big and funny and boisterous. But the way that he kind of, built a personality around the kind of products that he endorsed.
Yeah, I mean, there's been plenty of guys who's pitched things, Mean Joe Green with Coke or whatever, things like that. But I mean, consistently visible guy who no matter what he showed up on, from like shaving cream to a video game to McDonald's or something, like you're just like, oh, that's John Madden. Everybody knew who he was, and yeah, he kind of again going back to that sort of grandpa thing that I sort of felt with him. He was a terrific pitchman, and I bet he made as much money pitching products as he did doing anything NFL-wise.
Boom, tough acting Tinactin.
Tough acting Tinactin, yeah. I mean, why would name another Tinactin commercial?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen one? Yeah. Have you ever thought about it outside of John Madden? Probably not, right?
Yeah. But if I ever had athlete's foot, I'm going to go get some Tinactin because John Madden told me to. Number 3, the way he used the telestrator, not just
it was unbelievable
with the plays, but to just, here's the sweat running down the legs. Here's Troy Aikman's beard. Oh, look at this guy. He's eating a hot dog over here. I mean, he had that kind of Harry Carey about him where the surrounding elements of the football game were as important as the game to itself. And there's nobody who was more fun to watch because of those kind of things.
Well, you take it here, you go to here, you take it. Like there was a video earlier of Nate Newton's head, the steam rising off his head. Next thing you know, he had all these lines coming up trying to draw the steam, and it was just like crayons or a 5-year-old. But it was making sense, and he did it. Again, he was not afraid to enjoy life, enjoy the game, and make fun of, in some cases, himself or others as well.
Yeah. Number 2, the video game. And Craig's point was good earlier in that NBA Jam was good. Super Tech Mobile was the football game before then, but if you had Bo Jackson, you just score a touchdown on every play by running in a circle.
Pretty much.
Yeah, so it didn't really matter, all that much, but it wasn't real. And NBA Jam was just 2-on-2, and it was different. It was fun, but the one that
they don't shoot flaming basketballs when they make a bunch of threes in a row.
Yeah, but Madden actually his goal was to teach people about football. Like, this is what a 3-4 defense looks like. This is what a 4-3. This is what it looks like when somebody blitzes. This is how the board looks like when you're drawing up a play. And there's a bunch of kids who know what that looks like before they even set foot in because they played the video game. And as much as I think video games can get a little excessive, that one actually he had a mission with it that worked.
I think it'd be interesting to poll or somehow gather the data, how much he educated people on football, even just through the video game, and them learning through playing it. I'm sure a great deal of people. I certainly know some friends who played football, but they learned a lot more about, there's a difference came when they suddenly learned, like, what cover 2 really is, and, what a base, or not base, but, like just the different terms and different formations and things like that. I think a lot of people learned that through the video game and just playing it for hours and hours and hours. And he was a teacher of the game, I think, as much as probably anybody's ever been.
Yeah. And number 1, he changed the way color commentators do their job. And I think that he was right after Don Meredith, who kind of made it okay to be silly a little bit, because Don Meredith was a goofball. But he was also in the booth with Howard Cosell, so Don Meredith and Frank Gifford could be themselves to a point where Howard would allow them to be. So if there was 100% of the personality was in a bowl with the Monday Night Football broadcast with Howard Cosell, 85% of that or more was going to be Howard, and the rest he was going to decide based on the moment. And that was it for whatever sport he did or whatever he was doing. Howard Cosell was going to decide the personality is going to be here, and you guys are here to give me a break.
Yeah, he was the reason I got into broadcasting, Cosell.
And look, Cosell was he's one of the greatest, but as far as how he ran that booth, that's how he ran it. Now, when John Madden came along, part of that was having a guy like Pat Summerall who realized, you know what, I'm here to tell the story, but John and I are equal in this task, in that I'm going to tell the story and John is going to put so much flavor into this thing that this broadcast is going to be enjoyable. And then from then on, you look at what you have now, Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. Troy is as much of it as Joe is, and Joe highlights Troy as much as he does. And to a larger extent, Jim Nantz knows that with Tony Romo. Jim Nantz didn't have to get out of the way of Tony Romo, especially as green as Tony Romo was a couple years ago when he came in. His first gig was in the booth, but Jim Nantz knew that in the Madden tradition.
It takes a hell of a lot for someone like Jim Nantz or a Pat Summerall, who are great at what they do, but also no matter how good of people they might be, there's an ego there.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter whether it's talk show or a broadcaster, to understand that the others involved are special or there's something unique about them, and let them run. Yeah. I mean, Nance with Romo was like, whoa, a lot of times that could be a problem. And they had a great transition. I think Nance is the one that, like, when I don't know about when he debuted or when he was trying out for the job or whatever. I think Nance had a huge part to do with that. Rich Dalrymple of the Cowboys, in fact, had a lot to do with suggesting Romo, and I never thought that would work because Romo was so reclusive in some ways when it comes to interviews and stuff like that.
But he let him run because Madden showed that, like, let the guys run and let the personalities grow.
All right. Anything else, Craig? All right, Paul, thank you very much. Jack, McKenzie, and Armstrong, we're going to pack all this up. Be back here again tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Thanks to so many different people. Thanks to Avery, Josh, Charlie. I don't want to leave everybody out. Carlos, among some others. They're getting ready to dial up some food here at the media area, the headquarters. We'll be back at it tomorrow. Bunch of guests tomorrow. More on Baylor and Ole Miss. For Jack and Armstrong, for Paul, Catalina, and Craig Smoak, I'm David Smoak, and thanks to our crazy sponsors. We love them for what they do for us every single day. Good night from New Orleans, Louisiana.